any disclosures of interest? Madam Clerk, none noted. Need an adoption of the minutes.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Brenner. These would be the Special Planning and Development Committee minutes of June 24, 2019. Council minutes of the same date. Special Committee Council meeting minutes July 22, 2019. The Executive Committee minutes to September 9, 2019. And the Planning and Development Committee minutes, same date. Errors or omissions? Being none noted, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have no presentations this evening. We did have a couple of delegations that registered after the agenda deadline, but in time for the meeting this evening. The first delegation, I believe, is a joint delegation. Dana Gilbert of CapREIT, Melanie Hare, Urban Strategies, and Sharmini Mahadevan from Woodville. Thank you. Please come forward. I'll remind the delegations of our 10-minute time limit.
Thanks, Mary Reiner and members of council. Again, I'm Dana Gilbert. I work with CapREIT. I'm the Director of Development there. I think you're all fairly familiar with me over the last few months. We have been pretty active on the application that's pertaining to the zoning bylaw amendment for the city center lands. That's before you. And we appeared at the public statutory and provided comments at that time, as well as the committee meeting that took place 2 weeks ago. We have been working quite collaboratively with the city of Pickering, as well as PTC and Cushman-Wakefield over the summer, over a number of different meetings to discuss a public road, as well as pedestrian connection and other things pertaining to servicing, as well as tower locations, heights, and everything that goes within the zoning bylaw amendment. We, after the committee meeting that took place 2 weeks ago, one of the concerns that we still had around everything that was discussed, whether it be the public road, the pedestrian connection, and other ways of ensuring conveyance and implementing mechanisms of those features, we had met with staff as well to talk about the implementing mechanisms. We appreciate the number of changes that were made by staff within the recommendation report, as well as the zoning schedule that are before you tonight. We also appreciate the inclusion of including and retaining ownership of some of the lands for those pieces of public road as well as pedestrian connection. We do still have some concerns with the implementing mechanism of how those actually get collaborated on. And I wanted to come forward and say that we still want to continue to work through how those can be put into place and what that implementing mechanism actually is. And so I want to, the reason why it's a joint delegation is because I wanted to also have my professional planner, Melanie Hare, speak to some of the issues that we have around the implementing mechanisms, as well as Charmaine, who is our legal counsel, to talk about how we can perhaps figure out a way to implement these so that we can continue to work collaboratively with the city and Cushman-Wakefield. So I'll ask that Melanie comes up and gives her, knowing we only have 10 minutes.
Yes, very briefly. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Pleasure to be here. I wanted to start by just saying we do appreciate all the work that's been done, and I think the improvements to the bylaw over the last coming months and even last week have addressed many of our concerns. We began working with CapREIT earlier this year in terms of preparing a draft block plan, which is part of their zoning provisions on their lands and a requirement to look comprehensively at the block. And out of that, as required, we looked at connections, we looked at open space, we looked at built form, we looked at connectivity, and we looked at the block comprehensively. In doing that, we undertook to understand how important not only was the east-west public road that was identified in the official plan, but also a north-south connection as a public road. And that was important for a number of factors. One is that from a phasing perspective, it allows for the redevelopment and intensification on the CapREIT Pickering Place lands with minimization of any displacement. So the public road allows for that connectivity. It also allows for the functional nature of the roads to accommodate close to 2,000 units, which are what was anticipated on the city-owned lands as well as potential future on the Cap-Reed lands. And in doing that, we looked at the road right-of-ways and how those would function and how those could be improve connectivity, importantly, of course, to Esplanade Park and the whole civic precinct. We, out of that, are recommending still that council consider a couple of things. One is while it's important that the public road is now identified and secured through a number of mechanisms, that the dimension of the public road, the north-south public road on the south side of the Esplanade that connects, is right now proposed at 14.5 meters. Zero setback. In order to functionally work, and from an urban design perspective, we would be asking council consider a wider right-of-way. We had originally in the block plan considered an 18.5 meter right-of-way for those public roads, given that's what is in the urban design guidelines for the city center. We understand there's a desire to keep this very urban and tight, and we would recommend that consideration be given to no less than 16-meter right-of-way to allow for the access of servicing and loading, but also to make sure there's an adequate pedestrian boulevard and realm, allowing for street trees and so on and so forth to implement the walkable nature of city center, which I think is the aspiration. There are two other matters I think are of concern, remaining concern, is to understand that City Center, there are great ambitions for the intensification of City Center on multiple blocks, including the PTC lands, including the city-owned lands today, and of course Pickering Place. In all of that, we would like to make sure that the zoning bylaw coming forward isn't precluding the potential for the broader intensification of the area, in particular the Cap-Reed lands, and that would be from a transportation and a servicing perspective. The last point I'll just make is in doing the block plan as directed by the city for the Cap-Reed lands, we did consider with intensification comes new public amenities, including public open space, parks, and potentially POPs. And we realize there's a POPs proposed in the Phase 1 lands here, which is excellent, related to the cultural center and the senior center and the library. But we would, are planning on the Cap-Reed lands there would be a 5% parkland dedication is delivered in a future application through on-site. And we would like to understand how the parkland is delivered throughout the full build-out of the PTC, Cushman Wakefield sites as well. So those are 3 or 4 matters, and I'm going to turn the mic now over to our legal counsel to speak a little about the implementing mechanisms.
Thank you. One of the challenges that we have faced is trying to figure out what would be the best implementation mechanism to secure the public road and pedestrian walkway in light of the fact that there haven't been any studies which have been done to date with respect to the precise alignment and location of those 2 features. We do appreciate what the recommendation that staff will be bringing to you, that the city retain ownership of those areas, but that is in a very specific location. So in thinking about it, my recommendation to Cap-Reed has been, and our request of you here today, is for a holding provision to also be included so that the appropriate studies can be done in parallel with the site plan approvals process and everything else to determine what the precise location should be of the public road and pedestrian pathway, as well as to determine what servicing and any other improvements may be needed prior to the lifting of the holding provision. So that is our request of council, and that is along the lines of the discussion that we've had with city staff as well. And we do think that the work that would be needed in order for the holding provision to be lifted, that can happen in conjunction with and parallel to a site plan approvals process. So it really won't hold up the ultimate implementation of things, but rather it'll ensure that there is appropriate consideration given to the precise location and alignment of these features. And we are here to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the delegation. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tell me, the standard public road is how many meters?
The standard public road varies depending on the nature of the road. It would be somewhere between 20 and 40 meters in the greater arterial circumstance. We've taken a look throughout the city center, and generally it's 20, 25, 30 meters, and on some of the smaller streets it can be closer to 20.
So those, are there any roads going through the Pickering Town Center proposal?
My understanding is there are no roads. There are private roads that would be going through the Pickering Town Center on the west side of Glenana.
On the west side. So you're requesting that we look at a 19 meter or 16 meters opposed to 14 meter?
That would be a minimum, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair. That would be a minimum. We've looked at that. That would allow you for 2 travel lanes and a 5-meter boulevard on either side, or some variation of that. So that's why we've come up with the 16 meters at minimum.
Okay, so that gives you two travels.
2 travels at 3.
Did you say a boulevard plus a sidewalk?
Plus a boulevard with street trees and a sidewalk.
So what does a 14 meter give you? 2 lanes?
Gives you 2 lanes and a sidewalk. We don't believe, when we've looked at precedents on this, we don't believe you could get street trees in there that would survive.
You couldn't get street
trees, actual trees. You could get landscaping beds,
okay,
but not street trees.
So you mentioned a holding provision. You'd like to see a holding provision on this particular aspect of this development, just so that you could get together with staff to try to hammer out some of the finer details?
So the holding provision would be on the city center lands alone, so not the entire piece on the west side of Glenana, but on the city center lands. And the purpose of the holding provision would be so that the traffic impact studies and other studies are done to ensure that the location of the road, the public road, and the alignment is appropriate, to ensure that there are appropriate services and capacity in place, as well as the holding provision would make sure that any other agreements that the city requires, like cost-sharing agreements between the developers within the block, that those are all in place prior to the lifting of the holding provision. In addition, very importantly to the city, that there are appropriate arrangements in place for the construction of these facilities. So whether it be by way of letter of credit, or whether it be that the city wants the developers to have arrangements relating to who will bear the cost of these, relating to the public road and the pedestrian walkway. So those are things that we would recommend be in the holding provision. And it would only apply, my recommendation is that it apply to the city's center lands, not to the lands on the west side.
Yeah. Okay, and
sorry, the city-owned lands.
The city-owned lands.
I correct myself there, sir.
Yeah. I know that, well, I'm asking, does Capri have an idea how they would like their property to develop? How you would like to see it unfold? Have you put any thought into that? And I guess that's why you want to put the holding on there, so that you could find out where you want to develop your...
Through you, Mr. Chair and Council. So the site is quite large. There would be multiple phases that would take place. I think when I was here at committee, we have a large surface parking lot that would allow for relocation and a building to be built in the early stages to ensure that there's relocation as well as additional rental. However, one of the things, and I wanted to just add to that, is that The holding provision is really just to figure out the alignment, the way that it's within the zoning right now, and other things, but the way that it's in the zoning or showed in the schedule, it's in a very specific place, and it has actual locations and dimensions on it. And even though we are very happy to see that the city may be holding ownership of that, the fear is that that alignment and or after the studies are completed may be in an incorrect location based on what makes the most sense from a traffic or capacity or servicing, and then amendments to that zoning schedule will have to take place afterwards. And so what will be and I can let Sharm speak to it, but within that holding provision, it can be done through the site plan process. All of these types of clauses that would be under the holding provision would be within a site plan agreement throughout that process anyway. And so that kind of confirmation in terms of the conveyance, the alignment, the cost, and where it should go and benefit both parties as well as the city would be afforded throughout that process without having to retransfer land or go through another process.
Okay, and it's not unusual to have a holding provision on lands?
No, we have one on our lands. So our lands require that the development block plan be completed, as well as the condition that the servicing not necessarily has to be completed and or built out, but the servicing and the studies around the servicing and how it's going to be cost shared will also be figured out prior to the lifting of the H.
Okay. Thank you. I'll ask staff to comment on that later on. Thank you.
Is that it, Councillor? Thank you. Any further questions of the delegation? Councillor Brenner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the delegation. Two questions. One, on the provision of the holding, did you have discussions with our staff and also with PTC as well?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did. We did have discussions through the holding provision. That holding, we were trying to find a different implementing mechanism, and we're happy to entertain others. In the 2 weeks that we've had since the committee, we were unable to get to a conclusion outside of what is being presented before you in the zoning bylaw at this time. But we did have discussions with staff as well as PTC over the course of a few months about the potential for a holding provision.
Would approval tonight, I guess, that shouldn't impact positive discussions that have been taking place in the past to have those continue. Would that be correct?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, members of the council, in my opinion, we would continue to move forward on a collaborative basis to figure out something that works for all parties.
Final question, recognizing that the goal is to reduce the need for automobile traffic in our city center, what you're describing for wider road allowances as an example, isn't that counter to the future trends of wanting to motivate to decrease vehicles and encourage more use of public transit and walkable communities in our city center?
Right, I will defer to my planning expert, Melanie, to answer your question.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The intention is not to increase traffic ability, but actually to create streets and blocks which allow for connectivity and walkability and prosody through the sites and to access important sites like the Esplanade. Our recommendation at, originally we were working with the 18.5 meters, which is in your urban design guidelines, which is an alternate standard from your typical road right-of-way for a local right-of-way. And we were started with that. We then looked and understood the 14.5 meters being proposed through the zoning bylaw amendment, tested that, and understood. I think it's important that streets that are designed in urban settings to serve high-density development can function properly, but also have sufficient pedestrian boulevards to allow for amenity, proper walkways widths. So the 4 to 5 meters we're suggesting on either side of a street or a curb to curb is about walkability and not just moving cars around. So I think we are not talking about putting big roads in. In fact, we're putting in very urban-scaled roads. But I think we also understand the proposal, which is very exciting for very urban-form development, will require some level of mobility and sort of balanced streets. And so that's why we think more than just the traffic lanes, we need to think about some generosity to the pedestrian boulevards, sidewalks, plus landscaping, and that's all part of a more walkable downtown in city
Thank you
center.
very much.
Being no further questions, thank you very much. Thank you. Our second delegation this evening is Abigail Sampson regarding report CAO 0819, continuation of City of Pickering Magazine. Welcome. I'll remind you of the 10-minute limit. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Ryan, sitting members of council, and city staff. I trust you all had a safe summer. My name is Abigail Sampson, and I am a resident of Ward 2 here in Pickering. I would like to take 10 minutes or less of your time to discuss two agenda items. Firstly, Correspondence 2019, which states that the Large Urban Mayors Caucus of Ontario recommends that additional local regulatory controls be approved by the Province of Ontario around retail cannabis stores that would, A, provide a municipality with the unrestricted ability to control the location of retail cannabis stores through zoning, and B, in the alternative to A, 1, limit the concentration and number of cannabis retail stores in any one municipality by introducing a minimum distance separation measure between retail stores, minimum 500 meters, and 2, that cannabis stores be restricted to a commercial zone or area which permits retail stores, and 3, clearly defining sensitive land uses in addition to schools which would be impacted by having retail cannabis stores located adjacent to them. Such other sensitive land uses would include, but not be limited to, daycares, colleges and universities, community centers, nursing homes, libraries, and actively programmed municipal parks. And 4, that the current minimum distance separation of 150 meters from a cannabis retail store to a school be increased to a minimum of 500 meters from any sensitive land use to be defined as noted in paragraph 3 above, and C, that all municipalities that have approved retail cannabis stores to be located in their jurisdictions receive 50% of all excise tax collected by the province of Ontario on the sale of cannabis, not limited to revenues in excess of $100 million. While I agree that municipalities should receive more tax revenue, there are some recommendations that are worth further discussion. I'm not one to compare or condemn vices. I truly believe that consenting adults should have autonomy of their personal choices just as long as no harm is being inflicted onto others. I will say that in any plaza with a tutoring school, there is a convenience store selling cigarettes and scratch cards. Across the street from many schools, you will find a restaurant serving or a grocery store selling alcohol. And in this very building and directly next door at the library, youth have unrestricted access to sugary sweets via vending machine. While Pickering has an atom and power plant stacks on our crest, I would like to assure council and staff that cannabis is not plutonium. The proposals put forth in Correspondence 2019 will not deter youth from accessing cannabis, nor will it ensure public health or keep communities safe. What the recommendations do is infantilize adults, responsible, hardworking, tax-paying residents of Pickering who deserve dignified access to regulated products. Legal retail outlets can be a critical point to accessing education on what is, for many, a new and very foreign product. They can also provide information on how to reduce any harms associated with cannabis use. While we are not arguing that illicit access will be completely eliminated, legal retail will serve to undermine that market over time and slowly build trust with consumers over the next few years. While out of sight, out of mind may be a simplified solution to preventing youth access, what it actually does is perpetuate prohibitive ideologies and acts as a barrier for parents to have age-appropriate, educated, and non-stigmatizing conversations with their children. We all know how harmful stigma can be. We should be working towards actively destigmatizing cannabis, which is now legal. The second item I would like to discuss is Report CAO 08-19, the continuation of City of Pickering magazine. While the Executive Council meeting minutes clearly state that taxpayer dollars are not funding the printed publication, we need to look beyond budgetary impacts. This evening's agenda is proposing increased access to e-materials at the public library, which can easily be done with the Your City magazine. More and more folks are consuming their news digitally now and are less likely to engage with print. Pickering has received numerous awards for our green initiatives. I urge council and staff to keep this in mind when deciding on approving the publication of one more printed media that will only ultimately end up in the bin unread. Thank you for opening the floor, and I welcome any questions council may have.
Thank you. Questions of the delegation? No questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming this evening. Council, that takes us to correspondence.
Move to endorse 61, 62, 63, or 61 and 62.
61 and 62, moved by Councillor McLean, seconded by?
Second.
Councillor Cumming. And discussion, Councillor Ash.
Thank you, Your Worship. The City of Stratford, July 19th, 2119 report. I'm at a loss to know why we are...
Hang on a second. So you're on the second one. Is that we all good on number one? Okay, we'll come back. Go ahead, Councillor. You've got the floor. Councillor Ash, go ahead.
Do you want to deal with one?
Yeah, I saw you first. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, on page 49, which is the resolution from the City of Stratford, and I'm at a loss to understand why the City of Pickering has taken a position about the City of Stratford asking for a meeting with their MPP. That's basically the operative clause in this report. And whereas a meeting with the MPP and the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I mean, really? I'm not sure how this gets on our agenda and why would we be offering an endorsement for a municipality asking for a meeting. I think it's ludicrous. And I'll be voting no, so I'd like a recorded vote on number 2.
Okay. Anything further on Stratford? Councillor McLean?
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and I asked the clerk to put this on to be endorsed. I think what Stratford is attempting to do will affect all municipalities, and I support what Stratford is looking to do, and I think that is important for them and the provincial government to know that there are other municipalities that are looking at what they want and how this resolves itself. So I will be supporting this.
Anything further on Stratford? Being none, then on Stratford, recorded vote requested by Councillor Ash. This is item 6.2 in our agenda. Correspondence 2119. Opposition changes to the 2019 Provincial Budget and Planning Act.
For requesting a meeting, the operative clause.
We heard the argument.
Okay.
Councillor Ash.
No.
Councillor Brenner.
Yes?
Councillor Butt.
No.
Councillor Cumming.
No.
Councillor McLean.
Yes?
Mayor Ryan.
No.
Your Worship, that vote is lost 4-2.
Thank you. Councillor Butt, on item 6.1, this is endorsement of the Lumpco resolution regarding retail cannabis stores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, question to the city staff here. I know we were doing some community engagement. Do we have any status, or can you provide any status? Where are we at?
Councillor Butt, we've completed the community engagement portion. Our community engagement staff have done that. They have relayed the results to Mr. Bajoni and the manager of bylaw, who are reviewing it right now, and we intend to come back with a report to council later in the fall.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further on the item? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6.3, this is a report from our Director of Community Services.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Brenner. This is to remove a redundant procedure that has been replaced by others with the Museum Village. Discussion? Being none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. 6.4, Association of Municipalities fixing.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Brenner. This is regarding municipal recommendations for housing in Ontario. Discussion. Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Correspondence 2419, Jeff Urick, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, regarding More Homes, More Choice. Recommendation is to receive for information. Discussion? Sorry, moved. Councillor Brenner, Councillor Butt. Discussion? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're moving right along. 2519. Jason Martin, CAO, Clerk Treasurer. This is from Papineau, forced amalgamation, and the recommendation is to endorse. Moved by
endorse.
Councillor McLean, seconded by Councillor Ash. Councillor Ash. Discussion, being none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And moving along. Ministry of Transportation Correspondence 2619, moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Butt, enhancing municipal road safety through automated speed enforcement, also will be received. And staff be directed through the CAO to respond to the MTO prior to October the 3rd deadline. Discussion. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In putting this forward, recognizing it's another one of those tight timelines that came from the ministry, but I really felt, and I'm sure that my colleagues also will equally feel, that it's a very important item, something that our community has been talking about, and I know that our staff have been addressing with the community. So through you to Mr. Prevost, to Mr. Holborn, will you be able to report back, not to us, but to get some feedback to be able to respond to the report by the October deadline? I was hoping that by circulating it to you in advance of tonight's meeting, that you would have that opportunity.
And Councillor Brenner, I thank you for talking to staff and circulating in advance, and we will meet the October 3rd deadline.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. That takes us to Correspondence 2719, Producer Requirements for Packaging of Ontario, recommendation to endorse, moved by Councillor Butt, seconded by Councillor McLean. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to add on here that I put a motion in regards to reducing waste on this matter as well. I know the city staff is working on this and have informed that there will be a report at the end of this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Correspondence 2819.
Move it.
Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Cumming. This is e-content for libraries campaign operative cause. And now therefore be it resolved, the Council of the City of Pickering does hereby indicate its support for the Canadian libraries in their efforts to increase access to e-content for library users in the City of Pickering and across Canada, and call on the federal government to investigate the barriers faced by libraries in acquiring e-content and the problems that poses for vulnerable demographic groups in Canada, and further that the federal government develop a solution that increases access to e-content across Canada and assists libraries in meeting cost requirements to acquire digital publications. Discussion. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This came before the library board to myself and Councillor Cumming, and it was supported by the board of the library. We felt that it was important to get here to council because the issue is really one that's right across Canada and is very consistent with the fact that as a municipality, we are, and other municipalities, struggling with some of the barriers to having e-access to books through the lack of broadband internet all over Canada. It's not just here, it's not just in our rural communities, it's Canada-wide. We felt this should be a priority for the federal government, and as such, in advancing this tonight, it's part of a coordinated approach with libraries across Ontario and across Canada. Look forward to support of council.
Thank you. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And that takes us to the final correspondence, Correspondence 2919.
Move to endorse.
Moved to endorse by Councillor McLean, seconded by Councillor Brenner, and this is regarding provincial funding cuts to Legal Aid Ontario. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is a motion by Chatham-Kent in regards to the drastic cuts by the provincial government dealing with legal aid. I know that a $133 million cut to this program is going to really adversely affect those marginalized people in our society that don't have access to lawyers or other legal advice to defend themselves. So I think it's important that we take a stand on this and support Chatham-Kent and other municipalities dealing with the legal aid. Your Worship, this, in my mind, this is a penny wise and a pound foolish proposition. More people that can't afford or can't be properly defended just end up going through the system through pleading guilty when they might not be guilty just to get it done, or getting sentenced because they're not properly represented. And in my previous career, as much as I sometimes disagreed with the legal profession, I saw the benefit of marginalized people being properly represented in the court system. So that's all I have to say on this, and I call for a recorded vote on that.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Ash?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll support the motion. I think, however, Councillor McLean is confusing legal aid with duty counsel, and I know he's aware of both those with his past professional life as a police officer. So his preamble and the letter is correct. Less fortunate people need access to legal advice, but I have less of a concern, as stated by Councillor McLean, in regards to criminal matters, because they do have the continuance of duty counsel in criminal court. So I will support the motion.
Thank you. No further discussion. Recorded vote requested by Councillor McLean.
Councillor McLean.
Yes.
Councillor Ash.
Yes.
Councillor Brenner.
Yes?
Councillor Butt.
Yes.
Councillor Cumming.
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Your Worship, that vote carries unanimous.
Thank you. So that moves us on to the report of the Executive Committee held on September the 9th. Moved by Councillor Butt, seconded by Councillor Brenner. This would be items 7.1 through 7.6. Pull one. Councillor Ash. Any others to be pulled? On the balance, all in favor? That's carried. On 7.1, Councillor Ash, this is the continuation of the Pickering magazine.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question to the CAO is in regards to the delegate tonight. In our pre-meeting, we talked about different mediums and our ability to reach out to people. And I think the delegate made an excellent suggestion about digital. We are doing a hard copy of that magazine. We did in the first instance. Could you speak to, was there a digital copy available, either in, I don't know the language, other than, I know what a PDF is, but could you speak to if did it in the first instance, and if we're going to consider it in the second instance?
Thank you very much, Councillor Ash. And digital copies are available. Our purpose in having a printed copy was to have a bit of permanence. With social media and networking that goes on, there's a lot of information that flows through on the internet. Younger people are more adept at catching on, but what we wanted to have is a coffee table book, something that would stay in the home for a while, and it does deliver key messages, but we would use that in conjunction with digital media and other network sources.
Further discussion? Being none on the item, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The Planning and Development Committee report, there's two items. I'd like to deal with them separately. Can I have a mover on 8.1, please? Councillor Butt, seconded by Councillor Ash. This is the zoning bylaw amendment application for Part Lot 6, Plan 85, now Part 11, Plan 40R2, 2633, 2620 Brock Road. Discussion, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 8.2, Councillor Ash, seconded by Councillor Butt. I would bring to your attention the memorandum from the Director of City Development and CBO, replacement recommendation for Planning and Development Committee report, item 8.2, Plan 2019, revisions to draft implementation bylaw, and you refer to pages 183 for the memorandum and page 286 for the revised bylaw when we get there. Councillor Ash.
Thank you, Worship. 2 points. One is a procedural issue. There was a number of questions that were raised at our planning meeting, and we were fortunate enough as councillors to get a very detailed response to those queries that were both from council as well as the public. I'm again concerned of the lack of a public record. Okay. Well, that was my question. How do we get that dated memo, which was very helpful to me, into the public record as a matter of access?
Councillor Ash, it will be noted in the minutes of tonight's meeting that memo was provided to council, and it will be posted to the city website immediately as a FAQ, and we'll make that notification as quickly as possible after tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I think in the future, to the clerk, when we're looking at procedures, and to the director of planning, I think doing that connection is very valuable, because the information we get, they leave this chamber with all those questions and we get the answers. Nobody else seems to. So for us to complete that a record of information, I think is helpful. So just a FYI to the clerk and to the director of planning. My second question is in regards to the delegates tonight and the holding provisions. I've been a big supporter of holding provisions in other developments, because it moves the ball down the field, but it also allows for penalties and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm trying to do a football analogy in the wrong way, but my question through you, Your Worship, to the CAO and to the Director of Planning and or the city solicitor is their observations about the need for holding provisions in regards to the public ownership lands, or do they feel comfortable in the direction that we're going in regards to the lack of a holding provision?
Councillor Ash, we're comfortable with the recommendation that we've put forward tonight. We have had, as the delegates mentioned, we've had numerous meetings back and forth. We actually started with no road connection, went to a 10-meter and then an 11-meter and now a 14.5-meter road connection. We've made the revisions to the bylaw to make it certain that the 14.5-meter road connection is there, as well as the pedestrian connection. So we have had these conversations with the delegates, but we're comfortable with the recommendation that's before you tonight.
Councillor McLean, I think you had a motion.
Yes, I do. Just a couple questions there. And following up on Councillor Ash, that was the same question I had of the CEO earlier on about that. So I'm glad to see that's being addressed, and also for future memos and all that. It's nice to get the memos in a package, so those individuals that are checking our agendas online will have the same opportunity to review that information before us. So I'm not quite clear. Following up on the holding provision, what is the downside of putting a holding provision in on this at this particular stage?
Councillor McLean, we have used holding provisions in the past to facilitate the opportunity to get the necessary studies in place before we proceed with development. This is a bit of a unique circumstance given that we have a joint project with Cushman and Wakefield, so there are a lot more assurances that we have that we can navigate through these requirements, whereas if it was a single party working on this outside, like a privately run development, it would be a bit of a different situation. I can say that staff have worked tirelessly to work together with both Cushman & Wakefield and CAPREIT to try and resolve some of the lingering matters, which is why we've brought forward this amendment to the zoning bylaw to reflect those discussions and get a bit more certainty. So certainly no disrespect. We certainly respect what the delegation has said. At a staff level, we are comfortable with the recommendations that we're bringing forward.
Okay, I understand, and I know that it's been a lot of work put in by staff in conjunction with all this, and I appreciate that. And I'm also respectful of neighboring properties and neighboring rights and being included in the process. And I can understand where Capri is as far as not knowing exactly where they would like to do their road alignment. And I think that's important not that I'm a planner, but I think it's important from my perspective to see that wherever that road is, that's going to benefit the whole project. So that was, and I heard also that through the site plan, this could change. If we continue to talk to Capri about this 14-meter road, 16-meter road, or whatever, their concern, from what I understand, is where it's going to be. If that particular spot where it is now is going to benefit or be detrimental to their project. Am I getting that right from the Capri perspective?
Where the 14.5-meter road allowance is right now on the zoning bylaw is very close to where their block plan is. There's going to be a little tweaking required on the CAPREIT side, but I think that's doable. But we don't really have a formal application from CAPREIT. But it's not 10 meters away. It's within a meter of where they would like the road to be.
So once it's in the bylaw, though, once this passes tonight, I imagine there's an opportunity for Capri to appeal this. Is there? I guess anybody can appeal it. But staff is still open and Pickering Town Center is still open to tweak this a bit. Is that what I'm hearing? If need be?
We've had many meetings, Councillor McLean. We've come a long way to coming towards a mutually acceptable solution.
Yeah. Okay. Just in regards, before I make my motion, Your Worship, I know a lot of work has gone into this, and throughout my time in Pickering when I first moved in here, one of the biggest concerns or complaints that I've heard from residents is we don't have a downtown. Well, tonight they're getting a downtown, and there's a lot of people that might be concerned about traffic and infrastructure, but with this project, we've taken into account the traffic and the infrastructure, correct?
That's correct, Councillor McLean.
And so with this, there's lots of infrastructure to accommodate this project and other projects that might be coming down the pipes.
Correct.
Right. And I'm excited about the vision of the downtown. I think it's something that we're all excited about and looking forward to. And my other concern that I have is about the project going forward. I'm sure it's not something we're going to deal with tonight, but throughout this process, we talked about having an independent overseer, or I think they call it a fairness project manager.
Fairness monitor.
Fairness monitor. Is this something that we're going to budget for?
Yes, you're actually speaking about my other report in new and unfinished business, but we do plan on having a project manager to look after the interests of the city through. That'll be part of
But there's a difference between a project manager and a fairness monitor.
The project manager will be, in fact, a fairness monitor. He or she will be our eyes and ears on site and looking after the interests of the city.
Okay, so we're talking about the same thing. Your Worship, at this particular time, I'd like to make a motion to divide item 1C from the main motion and break it into two separate parts to read as follows so that the items may be voted on separately. So number 1C, the rezoned part of the Pickering Town Center lands located on the west side of Glenanna Road, south of Kingston Road, and the north of Pickering Parkway to permit a maximum building height of 125 meters. And 1D, to rezone part of the Pickering Town Center lands located on the west side of Glenanna Road, south of Kingston Road and north of Pickering Parkway to permit one building which may have a maximum height of 153 meters.
Councillor, do you have a seconder?
This is to divide, correct?
To divide.
A second for the motion to divide?
Thank you. Thank you. Members of council, we have a motion to divide before us. All in favor requires a majority. That's carried. Thank you. I'd like now to deal with that item 1D that reads rezone part of the Pickering Town Center lands located on the west side of Glenanna Road, south of Kingston Road, and north of Pickering Parkway to permit one building which may have a maximum height of 153 meters. And just so there's no confusion, that's the point tower that is on top of the Seniors and Youth Center, the taller building. Discussion on that one item. Being Councillor McLean?
So, Your Worship, if I just may say that the reason why I divided this is that I'm not going to support a 50-meter or 50-story building, but I'm going to support the project.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'll call for a recorded vote.
Recorded vote requested by Councillor McLean.
So which one are we doing?
1D, which is the 153 meters. Yep. Madam Clerk?
Thank you.
No.
Councillor McLean.
No.
Councillor Ash.
Yes.
Councillor Brenner.
Yes?
Councillor Butt.
Yes.
Councillor Cumming.
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes?
Your Worship, that vote carries 5-1.
Thank you. Now, on item 1C, before council, which reads rezone part of the Pickering Town Center lands located on the west side of Glenanna Road, south of Kingston Road, north of Pickering Parkway, permit a maximum building height of 125 meters. All in favor? Recorded vote requested by Councillor McLean.
Councillor McLean.
Yes.
Councillor Ash.
Yes.
Councillor Brenner.
Yes?
Councillor Butt.
Yes.
Councillor Cumming.
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes?
Your Worship, that vote carries unanimous.
Thank you. Now, the remaining items of the main motion are before council. Are there any questions before I call the vote?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote requested by Councillor Ash.
Councillor Ash.
Yes.
Councillor Brenner.
Yes?
Councillor Butt.
Yes.
Councillor Cumming.
Yes.
Councillor McLean.
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes?
Your Worship, that vote carries unanimous.
Thank you. Members of council, congratulations, and thank Councillor McLean has already said it best. You have created something that has been demanded by the general population of Pickering for quite some time. It's an extremely exciting project, and we're looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. And I'm told that we'll all be very pleased to be around here in 2022 when we start to open the doors. So it'll be good. Thank you. That takes us to new and unfinished business. Report item 9.1,
Move
the
it.
CAO report. This is a comparison of cost estimates for the Pickering City Center appraisal land exchange. Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Butt. Discussion. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the CAO. Mr. Previdal, I think when we got this, there was a recommendation in it that talked about the savings of being able to, and I think you alluded to it earlier on in the other item, have our own project management component to this project. And I think also, if I recall reading the report that came from our treasurer, it also identified that by doing it this way, we have the ability to benefit from using that same individual or team to be able to guide us through other capital projects that we are going to have on the books in the near future, such as the Seton Community Center, or such as when we go forward with the new fire hall as an example, that by doing it this way, there's a cost saving and we'll be able to benefit for some significant capital projects that we're going to be approving in the very near future.
Councillor Brenner, you're correct. What I have done in the last 2 weeks, I have reached out to the industry, I've reached out to the region of Durham, who have recently hired a fairness monitor for their digester project in Clarington. I've reached out to some of the other major development companies that we deal with to give me names of potential project managers, and that's something we're going to bring forward at budget time, and we'll get together as senior staff and decide on the best course of action, whether it's staffing up for this project or whether it's consulting dollars, and we will come back for council approval.
Subsequent question, Mr. Mayor. If I recall, so this was tied to that particular piece in the draft memorandum of understanding where there was an allotment percentage that was going to be used for a project management team with the Pickering Town Center. So I would assume that going forward with what we're talking about tonight, that piece would not be coming back in terms of an expenditure to Pickering Town Center.
You're correct. It's going to be something that we negotiate with our joint venture partners.
But it means we're not going to be paying somebody else to do what we're going to be doing from what we're hearing tonight.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anything further? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Need a mover for the Centennial Park picnic shelter tender. Moved by Councillor Butt.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Brenner. Discussion. Being Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to ask the city staff when would be the start time? I know summer is almost finished now, so I just want to find a rough time of start and finish time.
Through the chair to Councillor Butt. Once this is awarded, we'll be able to meet with the contractor and get a schedule from them. But typically the shelter, which is obviously the biggest component of the project, was pre-selected, has been designed, just needs to be ordered. Takes approximately 10 to 12 weeks to fabricate, and then once that's done, it'll be installed. So we're hoping everything is done before the end of this calendar year.
Okay, just another question on the side here, and for clarification purposes, do we have one washroom in the park there, or is it two washrooms?
There is a washroom facility in Centennial Park that has two washroom areas, if you will, one male, one female.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Takes us to notices of motion. I have a motion moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Butt. This is an age-friendly, affordable housing strategy.
I'm going to move to dispense with the reading and go to the operative.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Butt. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The operative clauses. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pickering requests that the Region of Durham and their review include: 1, all lands within the City of Pickering that meet the following criteria: lands not restricted by availability of servicing, lands that do not comprise a specialty crop area, lands that are not within a natural heritage system, lands not located in the moraine natural core and linkage areas, lands experiencing growth pressures and/or with locations in the White Belt that are appropriate for growth and can achieve a healthy, connected, thriving, and complete community, lands that have existing or planned infrastructure to support and accommodate growth. That the Region of Durham be requested to seek approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to an alternate intensification rate of 45% for Durham Region, that will enable greater flexibility to provide a more diverse range of grade-related housing mix. And 3, that city staff be directed to report back to Planning and Development Committee in the first quarter of 2020, outlining a process, development, and age-friendly housing strategy, including changes to Pickering's official plan and any required secondary plan reviews of those lands in Pickering that meet the stated criteria of recommendation number 1. And 4, that the copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Durham Region MPPs, all Durham regional municipalities, and the Region of Durham. Councillor Brenner is the mover.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I thank members of council for enduring with a very long operative of recommendations. This has come forward because there is no secret that when we look forward to the future, we are facing a crisis in terms of housing options and affordability. This is very different than talking about homelessness, which is another crisis, but this is very specific in terms of our duty and our responsibilities to ensure that we have a plan in place strategically to look at a housing strategy that will take us well beyond 2031. When we look at the 2031 statistics and projected population of, I believe, about 194,000 people within the city of Pickering, that's based on what we're going to see as growth when you factor in our intensification in our downtown core. It's looking at the potential when we look at the build-out of Seton. But the reality is that that does not adequately address the need for an age-friendly future. It doesn't look at the situation in Seton, and there's no secret that Seton was not a planned community by us in the city of Pickering. Seton was a community that was thrust upon us as part of an exchange between the provincial government and landowners on other properties on the Oak Ridges Moraine in exchange for lands in the city of Pickering. I'm not going to fault and I'm not going to cut up what Seton is today, but the truth is it doesn't provide options. It doesn't provide the kind of ground coverage that is necessary to give choices to senior citizens or an aging population that may need a bungalow-style condominium, as an example. It's actually a segregated community that's broken apart in segments that lack connectivity, which will result in challenges in terms of public transit or addressing the need for facilities. The motion that I'm asking council to support tonight is to look at the remaining lands in the city of Pickering that may be developable over the next 20, 30 years. And that's critical because if we don't look at it today, it may seem like a long time, but look how fast the vacant lands in Seton came on stream. We need to be talking about housing options today, and we need to be looking at it to ensure that that 194,000 people will have options to where they can move to, or where their children can move to, or where their aging parents can move to. Because Seton is not the answer by the year 2041, which is what this is looking towards. I do have a question of staff, or just to ask them. On the assumption this is passing tonight, it's critical that this motion get to Durham Region in time to be able to be part of the review that is taking place. If this is adopted tonight, would it be possible to ensure that the clerk could forward this to Durham Region almost immediately to ensure that it reaches the agenda? I did have the chance to speak to the regional chair on the weekend when I bumped into him, and he assured me that if this is passed tonight, that if we forward it on, it will get to the Planning Development Committee and the Region of Durham Council in sufficient time to be included. The other piece as well is to, again, be really clear with what is being asked for, and this is to Mr. Bentley in terms of planning and development. So there is no misunderstanding. What we are looking for would be the criteria that is found in item 1, and there's a number of those areas. So we're asking staff to almost paint from a clean canvas. Try and imagine that whatever lands that you're going to be looking at that meet that criteria, pretend for a moment it has no restrictions. Pretend for a moment when you're looking at it that there are creative ways to achieve building in areas that can find employment, or building in areas that can meet some of the environmental challenges that some of the White Belt area. Do we have a commitment from you that if this passes, you'll look at that blank canvas and bring us back a strategy in the first quarter of 2020 consistent to where we're heading in terms of our new our new living boundaries and urban boundaries, which is also going to be coming through from our strategic plan. So it's not about what is on the books today that can't be done. It's what could be on the books tomorrow, keeping in mind that everything is changing, from engineering, from creativity, the ability to have crops in a living environment, to have markets in a living environment, and to be able to achieve some of the challenges that maybe 10 years ago we couldn't achieve.
Yes, Councillor Brenner, we will certainly be looking at that as you've asked.
And you'll be thinking outside the box with a creative approach for a housing strategy. And that's critical because, if I'm correct, this is probably going to be our first housing strategy that we're going to be looking at in terms of making sure that we address an age-friendly community in the city of Pickering that's going to take us at least 2 to 3 decades down the road.
We are keen on innovation, so absolutely.
I got to tell you, if we can pull that off, that is a legacy that I think everyone on council will be pleased to leave behind for the next councils that follow us. Thank you. And I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I support and second the motion that Councillor Brenner has presented on the age-friendly, affordable housing strategy. In addition to his detailed report and the fact communities are facing affordability issues, whether they are renters or buyers. Supply and demand have contributed to record high rental rates and housing prices. Mr. Mayor, this is a fact that 56% of the renters cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment. 83% of buyers cannot afford to average to buy a home now. Research has shown that people who are adequately housed require fewer and less expensive medical interventions. We had a delegation not too long ago about building rental properties here in the city, and I asked a question about the vacancy rate, and she said it's less than 2%. This means tenants are facing bidding wars and are not able to find affordable housings. It's time for the City of Pickering to do more to facilitate the creation of a variety of suitable housing and a range of affordability. I hope we can get the support of the Council here tonight, as this is a fundamental to the growth of the City of Pickering. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ash.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support the motion, and I commend Councillor Butt and Councillor Brenner for their creative writing skills in regards to a very important issue. And I want to reiterate or support the observation of Councillor Brenner that we get this to the region in a very timely fashion. But I'm going to urge staff to do more than just send an email. I think we have to meet with the regional staff. I know there will be 4 strong advocates at the council chamber in regards to this position, but I think we have to advocate it at the staff level as well, because there are going to be competing municipalities fighting for that allocation of building opportunities across the region. And it was suggested to me that although they're politically incorrect to suggest that there's beauty contests, that's in fact what's going to happen. The best proposals are the ones that are going to make some sense. And I think the Pickering proposal is a very attractive one in terms of its connectivity, age-friendly, how it relates to natural heritage, supports transit, et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage staff to do that at the staff level at the region.
Thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm certainly going to support this. You know, it's more than just age-friendly affordable housing strategy. I think it should be a strategy for all. There is a crisis. I'm not giving you any shocking news. There's a crisis, a shortage of affordable housing for anybody, whether you're a single parent or somebody with disabilities. It's just not out there. I see now in my other with my other hat that to rent a one-bedroom basement apartment, you know, you're looking at $1,800 a month plus utilities. And I'm hoping with this 50-story apartment building, there's going to be a lot more affordable units in there for people to be able to live and work and walk around the downtown. So it is a crisis that we have to work at. And I was reading in the literature today that the province of Ontario is the only one that has municipalities looking after a lot of the housing issues there, and I think that's kind of a burden on municipalities to fund this. But I'm sure with our governments, both levels, they'll be at the table to help us move this down the road. So it is a crisis. It's a great step. I think it's a great way to assist our residents to continue living in our city. A lot of the people that I know and a lot of the people that we've dealt with over the last number of years are getting on in age, and they want to stay in the city. You know, they don't want to move out to Port Hope or Cobourg or any of those other places where it's cheaper to live. They want to stay close to their friends, their families, their doctors, and dentists and whatnot. So it is a crisis, and I'm looking forward to moving this forward at the region with the other members. Thank you, Your Worship.
Further discussion? Being none, recorded vote requested by Councillor Brenner.
Councillor Brenner?
Yes?
Councillor Butt?
Yes.
Councillor Cumming?
Yes.
Councillor McLean?
Yes.
Councillor Ash?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Your Worship, that vote carries unanimous.
Thank you. That moves us to bylaws. Moved by Councillor Ash, seconded by Councillor Brenner. This would be bylaws 771019 through 771419 inclusive. Any to be pulled? Being none. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We had a confidential matter earlier this evening. Prior to the regular council meeting, an in-camera session was held at 6:30 to hear a matter pertaining to the disposition of land in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Act and Procedural Bylaw 7665/18. Report LEG 0719 was presented with the following recommendation. Recommendation is, I think I need to move her in a second. I'll get on the floor.
Move it.
Councillor Brenner.
Second.
Councillor Cumming, thank you. City of Pickering has proposed sale to the Schwartz Chemical of Canada Limited, portion of Turning Circle McKay Road, Pickering, Part 3, Plan 40R613. Had land described, etc. Discussion? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And that takes us into other business. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Catherine, we talked, is she here? Oh, yeah. Or to Tony, whoever's listening to me.
You gotta go down the list for it.
Be careful.
You gotta go down the list for it.
It's a custodian out there. I want to find out what's happening with the Nautica Village visionary study that we requested. Where is that at? And
So, Councillor McLean, I can speak to that. The community character study is in phase 2 currently, and what we are looking at is we're targeting an open house for Tuesday, October the 29th, and we'll be sending out a notification very, very soon. From that, we're looking forward to a recommendation report on Phase 2 that's taken into account those public comments for January of next year. And that will incorporate some of the character attributes that we had spoken to at a previous meeting earlier this year with the Nautical Village.
Good. What message are we going to get out? How are we going to get that message out to the residents?
So we're sending out a notification, and anybody that's been part of the previous engagement will certainly be circulated. There was a sign-in list, and we will certainly circulate to those individuals. As well, we follow our other conventional systems, so social media, website, mail-outs, the like.
Great, thanks. And that'll include the people that were on the list for the Morgan application and the people that are going to be coming on the 17th for the Liverpool application?
We'll coordinate to make sure that they're included as well.
Because I think you might have some questions, so that will be a good lead into that. And I know I talked a couple meetings ago about sidewalks or lack of sidewalks, and I realize that the region is not going to be going ahead with a lot of their work, but I still think there's an opportunity at some locations along number 2 highway that we spoke about where we could put temporary sidewalks in until we're ready to urbanize it. What I would like is an idea of how much it's going to cost, because I want to address this in the budget next year, Mr. Prevodal. So I don't want to be I don't want to bring it up at budget time and say, well, we have to put it off for a year to get a cost. So if we can get an idea what it's going to cost, I'm going to try to look at that, address it in the budget.
Councillor McLean, I have talked to Mr. Holborn about that. He is going to be doing some cost estimates. My concern is wherever possible, we will put sidewalks in conjunction with the region when they provide platforms for us. The cost to do an asphalt sidewalk, which could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, will be throwaway once the region comes in to do their widening. So we want to make sure that we're not 2 years ahead of the region and then have them rip up what we've done. So Mr. Holborn will do estimates, and we will bring this forward to council.
I don't think you're going to be 2 years ahead of the region from what I can see here. But anyways, I appreciate that. It's kind of a concern for me. The other thing, the memo on the surface soil conditions that we got from you in regards to the Pickering Town Center and all that, that's going to be attached also to the reports that we talked about as part of the
I will make sure it's attached. Right now, it's not. It was a separate memo to council in response to concerns about soil conditions. We do have a letter, a secondary letter from the consultant. We don't typically put...
If I might help, the frequently asked questions, that memo that Councillor Ash referenced that is going to go up on the website, there's actually a line item in there specifically for that advises that the report is available for anybody that wants to come in and read it. But it's not a report that the general public is going to pick up and read.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct.
It really requires an engineer to interpret it.
Okay, I'm fine with that, Your Worship. I see it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cumming?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to give notice of two notice of motions for our next council meeting. One to do with a new animal shelter and the associated funding. And the second one to address the property standards bylaw. And we are at the moment complaint driven. I would like to introduce a motion to change that to be that we'll also be proactive where it's appropriate and manageable. I have had, with your indulgence, Your Worship, I have had some discussions with Mr. Bajoni, and I know he is working on, his department is working on revising those bylaws. Quite frankly, I could come up with a lot of motions, but I'm hoping that many of those will be addressed in the bylaws, in the amendments you're bringing forward. I would ask, not tonight, but perhaps at your earliest convenience, you could let me know when you anticipate to have a first stage revision on those bylaws. I'd like to make sure that many of them are addressed at before or on our budget meeting, because I'm sure a lot of them will have a budgetary impact. I have a couple of other issues, Your Worship, with your indulgence. And one to staff, Fairport Road brought me onto council 5 years ago, and we introduced some traffic calming then, and I'm sure you'll remember my many visits before you. I don't think the traffic calming painting on the road has been done since before I was on council, and it's certainly faded beyond belief. There's also some problems at Bonita Road in Fairport, where the park is. We have a stop sign there, and it's hard to imagine that most people actually even slow down. They just blow through that. Councillor Brenner and I, because that's right on the border of Ward 1 and Ward 2, are going to do a little bit of a survey, but I think he reported to me the other day he watched 30 cars blow through one after the other without a stop. And we have had bad accidents there. Someone's going to get killed if we don't do something about it. I don't think enforcement's the only answer, but it might be part of the answer. I had another question just to do with that corner, and that is, perhaps you could tell me, when someone adopts a park, as we see these signs up there, what are they obliged to do? They adopt a park and they get a notice up there. What do we anticipate they're going to do with that adoption process?
Typically, when someone comes forward to adopt a park, they have a responsibility to do a park cleanup at least once a year. We provide gloves, we provide garbage bags, and we provide staff to pick the garbage up at the end of the day. So they get their name up on a sign, adopt a park, and they're whether it's a school or a group, they come out and have a social event to do a cleanup. That's the plan.
Again, and I don't want to steal Councillor Brenner's thunder, but I think the park at Bonita was adopted and the parents have flown. I don't think...
we'll follow up with that.
I don't think there's much been done there. I also believe, and I mentioned earlier, that some of the lights in that park, which were solar lights installed at the time, are now missing. I'm not talking about the bulbs. I think the light units are missing. They were obviously taken down by staff to do something to them, but they haven't been replaced or reinstalled. I have another question for staff, if I could. I noticed all the fast food restaurants in Pickering have done away with garbage cans. You go to McDonald's now, you go to Burger King, any of those places, all the external garbage cans are gone. It's almost like we've mandated they take them away, or someone's made a quiet decision. And the result is, of course, we've got garbage getting thrown out of cars and thrown onto the sidewalk. Is there a reason why they've all disappeared?
I don't have a reason, and I wasn't aware of that, Councillor Cumming, but we'll follow up and try to find out whether it's like a trend or some internal mechanism. Certainly not the city asking them to remove the containers. So we'll follow up.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have just a couple of items. Just the first question, it would be a question of staff, and I know you did answer it about the park in Bonita, but I'm curious, do we have a monitoring mechanism to ensure that all of our parks where we have had them adopted by different community groups or organizations, in fact, are having the appropriate follow-up, at least on an annual basis? Many times an organization puts the name up and the organization disappears after a period of time. Do we monitor it? Do we follow up, or is it an assumption that the adopted parks are continuing to be maintained by the respective organizations? I'm talking citywide, not just at one park.
Councillor Brenner, I'm going to review that with staff and provide a bit more of a better response. We'll look into that.
Thank you. The second question, and I did put it out, a report came in from a magazine, and it had to do with parking standards in multi-res. And I know Mr. Bentley had a chance to sort of talk to you briefly regarding, are we looking at reviewing the parking standards that are required for multi-res and particular high-rise development? I raise it because, as you are aware from reading the article, and is no secret, as the future comes forward, there appears to be a decrease in the numbers of automobiles that are in fact using underground parking spaces that are being, I guess, required by municipalities. City of Toronto is a prime example. You can't even give away some of those parking spots. I think that when we first started setting standards, it was the assumption that everybody's going to have a car, probably 2 cars. More and more, we're finding that in multi-res, and especially in intensified areas, that we find that people are deviating from actually purchasing cars, and they're using car rentals as an example. Short-term rentals, as an example, in the City of Toronto, or they're using bikes depending on where they are. Are we looking at that? And if not, when will staff be looking at reviewing the standards that are in place currently?
Much like with the City Centre project, we're recognizing that there are new and forthcoming trends in market conditions and the economy and everything else, and parking space allotments are no different than that. We apply the best standards of the day when we look at these things and incorporate that within the respective bylaws. Having said that, we identified that, or we recognize that some developers are seeing issues trying to find a user for those parking spaces. So we're constantly looking at these things as we come forward, but certainly happy to have more discussions thoroughly with planning staff to come up with a assessment that can inform future decision making.
So am I hearing that you'll be bringing something back to council on visiting those guidelines in the near future?
Yes.
Thank you. The other question that I've got has to do with road access during construction. I think Councillor McLean, when we talked about some of the projects on the go, alluded to we have some public information meetings that are going to be happening about proposals at the corner of Liverpool and Kingston Road as an example. It is possible that based on timing, that type of development could end up happening almost consistently with what's taking place in terms of construction in the Pickering Town Centre. Are we looking at putting in place any kind of, and I know we're going to be doing probably I guess a construction management plan for one. Is it possible to factor in the potential for a joint, project management that would look at construction? Because clearly the intersection of Kingston Road and Liverpool will become very, very congested as we have more and more of the construction vehicles. The other piece I'm curious about, on our books, we had, once upon a time, I believe, a continuation over the Supercenter property that would have connected the property of, which is now, I think, Food Basics, if I'm correct, that would connect all the way out onto Liverpool and actually take it right into Pickering Parkway. When's the last time that was looked at? And I'm wondering, given the fact that there is going to be a need to have a detour or potential detour as a bypass, if it's something that might be worth looking at to be able to move vehicles much easier without getting caught up on Kingston Road during construction as a potential bypass to enable vehicles to continue to move east and west without getting bogged down at those intersections.
Councillor Brenner, to answer your first question, we will certainly sit down with our partners and come up with a construction management plan before we start digging, and we will also take into account other projects in the immediate vicinity. To answer your second question, the environmental assessment for the Walnut Lane extension, that's the roadway that you were just referring to, is underway. It's under Mr. Holburn's direction, and I'm not quite sure where it is in its final state, but we are working with the proponents. It will involve a structure over the creek, but we are looking and we're working with MTO about the geometry of how it connects with Liverpool and a secondary connection with Pickering Parkway. So that is underway.
And I guess my final point is more just as a public announcement that on September the 30th, the Pickering Public Library will be hosting an all-candidates meeting in our auditorium. And I think it's important that the public be aware this is an opportunity to come meet the candidates and be able to listen to some of their responses to a broad range of challenges that have been identified through public input to the Pickering Public Library to find out where each candidate stands on those challenges to ensure that Pickering's needs as a community and quality of life are going to be addressed by whomever is going to be victorious on October 21st. So that's on September the 30th, 1 week tonight, Pickering Public Library, auditorium, space is limited, so I would say come early in order to get a seat.
Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just wanted to inform that the city councillors are meeting tomorrow. Every wards have been getting concerns about car parks and traffic. So the councillors are meeting together in terms to having a common discussion in terms of traffic issues and parking issues. And we'll probably move further with this discussion and get the city staff involved with this discussion as well about the problems and issues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cumming?
Thank you, sir. Just one thing. I noticed that with garbage pickup and various other things, we have a time restriction. We don't allow garbage trucks to go around until 7 o'clock in the morning. We don't have that restriction with food delivery trucks and other delivery trucks. And I've had residents on the phone complaining about deliveries at 4:30 in the morning, waking them up. We have no bylaw to deal with that. I'm sure that's something Mr. Bajoni will include in his list of bylaws when he works on it. Apparently in the city of Toronto, they do have that kind of restriction, so I think they do all the deliveries out here early in the morning before they venture into the city. So I'd like to make sure that's not the case. 4:30 in the morning is just a little bit too early. And as we start to build up and intensify, as there's going to be more and more people living in proximity to stores, and that could become a big issue. I would also like to see if we have any laws on the books or anything on the books to do with the riding of electric bikes, electric mopeds, those pedal scooters that I see. I've had 2 near misses this week. People riding down Kingston Road, on the pavement 1 minute, on the road the next. Not going very fast, but certainly not very steady. And I know some municipalities have put some restrictions on that. I don't expect an answer tonight, and that may be a DRPS issue, Durham Regional Police, more than a city issue, but it is something we should take a look at, because again, in some city centres, they're renting out bikes and they're renting out electric bikes And if we don't deal with that now, it can become a big issue down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my list of other business. Confirming bylaw, Councillor McLean, Councillor Brenner, all in favor. That's carried. Councillor Ash, Councillor Cumming for adjournment. Thank you. All in favor. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Good work, everybody. Good night.
It really gives them an understanding of what some of those soldiers may have went through.
Right. So if people were interested in finding out more information, we're in our last 30 seconds, where would they go to find out more information about the museum and Tank Saturday?
Just go to tankmuseum.ca.
Okay.
Tankmuseum.ca will have links to all of our events throughout October and the rest of the winter.
That's amazing. And can you buy tickets day of?
You can buy tickets just by showing up at the door, and you
Okay.
can also purchase them online.
Okay. Super quickly, tank rides.
We do have rides. The last time this year will be October 5th, and you'll be able to experience our new airport tank track. You'll have to see it to believe it.
I cannot wait. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me today.
Thanks, Anna.
Now it's time to buckle your seatbelts because we're going on location with Kid Fun expert Trinity at a local museum that'll get your engines revving.
Hi, I'm Trinity, and I'm at the Canadian Auto Museum in Oshawa. Hi, Alex. Can you tell us about the museum?
Hi Trinity, thanks for coming. The Canadian Automotive Museum was founded in 1963, and we tell the story of the automobile in Canada, who drove them, and why they're awesome.
Whoa. How many cars do you have in the museum today?
Today we have about 75 vehicles. That includes cars, motorcycles, and even a fire truck.
Whoa. Which is one of the oldest cars you have here?
Well, our oldest cars date to around 1902 or 1903. So doing a little bit of math, that makes them about 117 years old here in 2019. So quite old vehicles.
That's very old. Do you offer tours here?
We certainly do. We offer tours mostly on the weekends, but throughout the summer as well. So you can always stop by and ask for a tour, or we book tours as well. And I think it's the best way to actually learn about the collection is hearing it directly from one of our tour guides.
Oh, okay. Do you have any activities for kids if they wanted to come with their parents?
Of course, we have lots of activities for children of all ages. We have scavenger hunts, we have activity sheets, we have a couple of great photo ops, cars that the kids can sit in. So we have one up in the lobby, we have a little car upstairs, and we have Lightning McQueen here right now from Disney Pixar Car 3, and he's always great to take photos with.
That was my favorite childhood show. What's the new exhibit that you have here?
Our newest exhibit we're working on for the spring of 2020 is called Oshawa's Automotive Community, and it's going to tell the story of auto workers and the cars that were manufactured here in Oshawa starting from 1907 all the way up until the present day. So it's going to incorporate a lot of community feedback, and we're really excited about it.
Whoa. Thanks for talking with me today, Alex. Back to Anna in the studio.
Great job, Trinity. My next guest wants you to let your child's imagination run wild this fall. And joining me in the studio is Annika Kim, Director of Arts Unleashed.
Hi.
Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Do you like my glasses?
I love them, yes. Do you
These
like my Shark's hat?
It is very nice. So you are the Director of Arts Unleashed.
Yes.
And we are wearing these wacky things. So tell me a little bit about Arts Unleashed. What is it?
Arts Unleashed is a 100% kid-created performing arts studio. So the aim for us is to build confidence in young people through the power of their own imagination.
Wow.
Yeah, and we do that by creating live plays with kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you offer classes?
Yes. We do classes, camps, birthday parties, and events.
Okay.
And everything is built around the premise of creating a live play. So in a week of camp, they would build a play. We have some examples of set pieces. They work with costumes, improv. We never have a script.
Okay.
And by the end of the week, they'll put on a show. And it's all their own ideas.
Wow. And what age is this for?
The camps run from 5+, but our programs, we have toddler classes as well.
Okay.
So we work with kids as young as 2 years old.
Wow, amazing. So tell me then a little bit. So I've signed my child up for a class. We're ready to go to our camp or program. We are ready to go day one.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What do we start with?
So as soon as they come in, they have a theme.
Okay.
So for example, we could have an ocean theme, and we would ask the kids to brainstorm. So they break off into partners or small groups, and they think of ideas that relate to the ocean. And kids will go all over the place. So they'll go below the ocean to Atlantis, they'll go up into the sky, they'll go to Uranus, which was a planet we went to in our last show.
Of course, of all the planets.
Yes. And every idea they bring to us, we incorporate into the show unless it has violent or negative messaging. And we just piece it together into a 5 or 6 act play.
Wow, that is amazing. So you have also brought some other things. So I'm going to take my big glasses off here, because I want to get a really good look at the things that you have brought down here. So we have a
giant taco.
The big taco.
Yeah.
Now, who has made all this stuff?
So when the kids come in and they're working with a theme, once they've built the story, we write a list on the side and we say, okay, we're going to Taco Land, let's make a giant taco. So that goes on the list. And that's an example there. If we were doing an ocean theme and they needed a boat, then we work with set pieces that are movable, usually collapsible, because they're coming and changing scenes and they're coming from backstage. So we built this show to go with that.
Wow.
And the tree, we printed all the leaves. So we worked with styrofoam and carving and printing on the leaves. We painted the cardboard and the base as well. So they're all pieces. This is an example of a smaller prop.
Can I see that?
Yeah.
Oh my
So that's
goodness.
a portal in a submarine window. So we painted the whole submarine and then we popped them all in, and it's and all recycled materials. So everything that you see, we're creating with cardboard boxes, take-out container lids.
Wow. How much guidance do you give the kids with this?
The process is set. We work with the same structure every time. But the only guidance we give is helping them understand how a story works.
Okay.
For example, you need a beginning, middle, and an end. You need a conflict. But everything else is very kid-driven.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. So you do birthday parties as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So in a birthday party, obviously we have less time. We work with 2 hours. So the child chooses a theme, and then we create an adaptable script based on the theme and a show starring the birthday child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so for example, Moana was a popular theme for a while. So they came in and the birthday child is Moana, and all of the friends are the supporting cast.
Okay.
So they come in, we adapt the script, we create a costume piece or prop that we use in the show, and then we rehearse a couple times with costumes, and they put on a show at the end of the birthday party.
How fun.
And they have their moment. It's so amazing when they have those, like, I am Moana, and you see them like having their moment. It's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you guys are you're having a grand opening. Tell me a little bit about the grand opening.
So the grand opening is September the 28th from 1 to 2:30 is the official opening.
Okay.
We're doing a ribbon cutting, and the mayor's coming, and we have some politicians, and hopefully all of our Arts Unleashed campers and their families, they all have amazing tie-dye shirts from summer camps.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're hoping to fill the space, and we're doing a canvas and costumes event.
Okay.
So families will be able to paint and add to our community canvas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then they'll be able to like wear costume pieces and take pictures in front of our kid-created sets.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me today. Get ready to grab a basket and head out to the orchard, because we're going on location with Kid Fun expert Isabel at her October pick of the month.
Hi, I'm Isabel, and I'm at Nature's Bounty Farm with Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Tell me about your farm.
Good morning, Isabel. We have a farm that's 100 acres in size. We're located on the Oak Ridges Moraine in Durham Region.
How many types of apples do you grow?
We have 22 varieties.
Do you grow anything else?
Yes, we also grow pumpkins, squash, gourds, and alfalfa for the sheep, and corn for the sheep.
How long have people been coming to your farm?
They've been coming for 25 years.
Why did you want to become an apple farmer?
I was never in an orchard until after fourth year university, and I worked for the government in orchards, and I fell in love with apple orchards.
What activities can families do when they visit?
They can also visit our corn maze, our sheep. We have a picnic area and also a play area.
What is the best way to pick an apple?
The best way to pick an apple is to cup the apple with your wrist, like that, and then you just flip it up. So it's eye to the sky, that's the eye. Just flip it up.
Can I eat an apple right off the tree?
You can. We mark the apples that are ready, the varieties that are ready, and yes, people can eat them off the tree.
How can people find out when the apples are ready?
You can go to our website at naturesbountyfarm.com.
What's your favorite apple?
My favorite apple is ambrosia.
Thanks for talking with me today.
You're welcome.
Now back to Anna in the studio.
Okay, thanks, Isabel. Your local library is more than just books, and my next guest is here to give you the inside scoop on the variety of programs and activities families in Ajax can enjoy. Joining me in the studio is Devin Ward, Youth Services Librarian and Community Engagement from the Ajax Public Library. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
I love having libraries in to talk about their programs, so I'm thrilled that you're here from the Ajax Public Library. So you come all the way from Ajax to Oshawa, and you're going to share what's happening. So let's talk about the different programs that are available in October.
Okay, sounds good.
So what kind of, let's start with the teens. What kind of teen programming do you have?
So we have a couple of programs that we're starting up this fall. I'm really excited. We're trying to do, the library has a teen Instagram.
And a teen Instagram?
Yes, and honestly, I'm not that good at it, but I have a lot of support from my
you're
teen.
not a teen.
Exactly. I have a lot of support from my Teen Advisory Committee, which is a voluntary group for kids who go live or go to school in Ajax.
Okay.
And they just come in once a week and they help me with this kind of thing. So we're getting together a contest. I don't have too many details yet because we're in the early stages.
Okay.
To highlight Teen Library Week, which is in October. Okay. October is generally Love Your Library Month. And then within there, there's a specific week for teenagers.
Well, we love our library all months of the year.
Yes, obviously, because you should. So we're trying to get that going. We're sort of still kind of feeling our way around Instagram contests. They're not coming to us as easily as summer reading club programs because it's a little bit new, but we're working on it, and I'm really excited.
Okay.
About how it's going to go.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
going to
we'll
be
focus
cool.
on the books that we're all reading.
Okay.
And I guess we've also we're starting a book club.
A teen book club.
A teen book club. This is our first attempt. The title was picked by a group of TAC members who they just asked one day, like,
and
do
TAC
we have
Teen Advisory Council?
Teen Advisory Council. And they came up to me and said, do we have a book club? And I said, no. If you guys are interested in trying to get one going, I will throw my weight behind this and we will see what we can come up with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm really excited. The first meeting is the 27th of September at 5:30. It's a Friday night. There's no registration. There's nothing. The only real expectation is that you've read the book.
Okay.
I guess if you haven't, it's going to get spoiled for you, but you can still turn up, I guess. The title that we picked is Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, wow.
Which is the novelization based on the musical.
Yes.
So at the first meeting, we will talk about the book. Mm-hmm. We'll have some snacks. We'll probably listen to the soundtrack a little bit because it's awesome.
It's
I haven't seen the
amazing.
musical yet, but I love the soundtrack,
Yes.
so it sounds good. So I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
So are the kids that are leading it. Everyone is new to this. This is their first attempt at leading a book club. So fingers crossed that lots of people come out and they have a great time.
I'm sure they will.
I hope so.
So you have a Halloween program.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween Nook Night Out.
Yes.
Tell me about Halloween Nook Night Out, because when kids get older, now this is a program for teens, right?
Yes, yeah.
So when kids get older, they still like Halloween because Halloween's fun and you get to dress up and there's candy and all that stuff. But when you're a teenager, there's not quite as many opportunities to go out and have fun on Halloween, right? So
there's a bit of a cool factor too.
Yeah, exactly. So Halloween Nook Night Out, what is that?
So on the Nook Night Out, previously we had been extending the library hours and keeping the building open to the public a little bit later, but we extended our hours this year anyway.
Okay.
So most of our programming generally is sort of like in a program room or in a rotary room in its own separate space. The Nook Night Out is when we have as much programming as possible in the corner of the library that we call the Nook.
Okay.
That's where all the teen books are and some of the more comfortable furniture. It was named the Nook because a few years ago we did a contest, and that was the name that the teens of the community liked the most. So we have programming on the floor. We have had live music in the past. We're looking into having a DJ this year. We have a ton of food. Panago Pizza sponsors us.
Oh, nice.
So that's delicious and exciting. And then the Teen Advisory Committee, there's about 25 of them. They develop a program. They're talking about wanting to do escape rooms.
Escape room?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
We'll see. We've done in the past Minute to Win It challenges.
Yeah.
Of course, it's Halloween, so we'll have candy, we'll have costumes, just sort of like all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So it's the weekend before Halloween.
Okay.
It's the 25th, it's the 25th.
Yeah.
It will be in the evening, probably 6:30 to 9:30,
Yeah.
or sorry, 6:30 to 9. And even though the library is open, it will not be a quiet place that night. It'll be full of teens.
Okay, so don't take your book and expect you're going to relax and read.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you so much for coming in and talking with me today. I really appreciate it. I think these are great events, and I hope all the teens in Ajax go to the Ajax Public Library.
So.
Now, if your children love creating art of all kinds, then stick around because we're going on location for the last time with Kid Fun expert Lila at her October pick of the month. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Lila, and I'm here at the Living Room Community Art Studio talking with Mary. Tell us about the studio, Mary.
Sure, I'd love to. So, the Living Room Community Art Studio is something we call an art hive, like a beehive, but instead of honey, people make art here.
Cool.
Yeah, and they make it for free, so anybody can come and use the materials we have here to make any kind of art they want. They can knit, they can write poetry, they can play the piano or guitar, they can sculpt, they can garden, they can make ugly art. They can do all of that if they like.
Cool. Do you offer classes?
Yeah, sometimes we do pay what you can workshops and different events like that. So what that means is we might have a suggested donation because this is a charity, but we'll never, ever, ever turn anyone away if they want to make art, but they don't have the money to pay for the workshop. Does that make sense? We're also getting ready to make our second coloring book for the living room. Would you like to make a picture for our coloring book?
Sure.
Yes. Excellent. Cool. We're asking all sorts of artists from everywhere, all over the community, to draw pictures that we can include in our coloring book. I would be thrilled if you would contribute a page. Yeah?
Yes.
Cool. The theme of the coloring book is hope. So anything that makes you feel hopeful.
Thanks for talking with me today, Mary. Back to Anne in the studio.
Thanks, Lila. My last guest is joining us all the way from Uxbridge. It's Mike Jacula, Director of Public Affairs from the York-Durham Heritage Railway. Thank you for coming all the way from Uxbridge.
No problem, my pleasure.
It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to talk to you about the York-Durham Heritage Railway because there are so many awesome things happening this fall.
Yes.
So first off, if maybe for people who haven't heard of the railway before, tell me a little bit about the York-Durham Heritage Railway.
We are a nonprofit organization, and it was formed to help educate and have sort of like a museum and get real life experience of what it was like riding the railway back in the 50s.
Okay.
And it was a line that basically used to run all the way up to the, bring stuff down from up north to the distillery in downtown Toronto, and through time, it was about to be abandoned, and then a bunch of volunteers got together about 25 years ago and said, "Hey, you know what? Let's preserve this."
Okay.
And we partnered with Go Transit, and they basically helped us out, and we leased the line from them, and then we acquired all the heritage equipment.
Wow.
And it's almost all of it's volunteer run. It's a very small amount of staff, but the majority of it is all volunteers who love doing what we do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so a lot of people don't get to experience the heritage and what it was like back then, what the seating, what the equipment was like. We've even got stuff from the 1910s. Wow. So come on out, and people they love to come out and see us.
So it really is a literal trip back in time.
It is.
On a heritage railway, on a heritage railway line through beautiful scenery, I imagine.
Yes.
So you have fall events, fall and winter events coming up.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Wizards Festival and Hallows Express train.
So what we've done is we've gone out and we've have a themed event. So it's more than just a train ride.
Okay.
So there's an exhibition of different vendors. There's the Quidditch match. We're bringing
There's
in
a Quidditch match.
Yes, matches on both days. There are teams coming in from Toronto to be able to come, and people are so excited about seeing that. So they're going to come out.
I bet.
Yep. So they're going to come out. They're going to watch the matches.
Yeah.
We've just added a blacksmith demonstration.
Oh, cool.
And it's going to be at the railway, and also we've got Elgin Park
Yeah.
as well. It's going to have some more stuff as well.
Okay.
So both locations, so you don't miss out on either one. And vendors and.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So if you're into the wizard stuff,
Yes.
this is definitely something that you
Yes.
should go onto the website and check it out and probably buy some tickets soon
Yes.
because it sounds like it's.
The first day sold out really quick, and the second
Wow.
day we're expecting to sell out as well.
Wow.
Yes.
That is amazing. So let's talk about the Halloween train because
Yes.
Halloween's coming up. It's October. We're
Yes.
thinking Halloween.
Yep. So we've got two versions of it this year. So
Okay.
we've got one for our regular, one for our families.
Okay.
And they can come out. Kids come out in costume, and we take a short trip down the line and come back. And it's one of our well-known trips.
Yeah.
And then this year we've also added a dinner train on the 31st for adults.
Oh, okay.
19 and over. There's going to be a DJ. They have tell some scary stories. People can come in costume.
Awesome.
3-course dinner served at your seats.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you've got the G-rated train ride and then the R-rated train
Well,
ride.
maybe a little between R and PG.
Okay.
Yes, in there, but that's something that people like. Our dinner trains do sell out, so people need, if they're going to come,
Yeah.
make sure you book as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
So don't expect you're going to get dressed up in your costume, drive out to Uxbridge, get on the train that night
No,
for
'cause-
Halloween because
no.
that's not going to happen.
No.
Book tickets in advance.
Book tickets in advance. It's
Okay.
really worth it, and we have a local caterer, so it's all the money goes back into us.
Okay.
So we appreciate people come out, and you know what? If you want to leave your kids at home with the babysitter for the day, and then you come out and have some fun in the evening for a change, hey, we'll host you. Come
For
on
a
in.
change. So you also have a couple of more gentle rides, maybe the Fall High Tea and the Saturday Fall Celebration.
Yes.
So what can people expect on one
So
of
for
these?
the high tea, it's come on out. They have scones and tea served with linen, and it's a little fancy or
Okay.
whatnot. And then for the fall celebration is that we come out and you can see all the fall scenery. We keep our open air baggage car open, so you can come by and you see all the leaves coloring and changing
very
and taking
nice.
all that in as well.
Very nice. So if I wanted to get involved in this, like, are you accepting volunteers?
We will always take a volunteer.
No one gets turned away on the Arctic
We
Heritage
will
Trail.
find something for you to do, but we let people do is if they come out with a certain interest or whatnot and say, you know what, I really want to do groundskeeping, or I really want to work on the diesel locomotives, and that's my thing.
Okay.
You don't have to come out and be crew. If you want crew, you can crew, but you can come out and do whatever that you can contribute.
Right.
And what is your interest?
Because it's a big operation.
It is a big operation.
And there's something for everybody.
And it takes a lot of work to make everything happen.
I bet. So if people want more information, we're on like our last 10 seconds. Where should they go?
www.ydhr.ca.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming in
You're
today.
welcome.
It was a pleasure. And that's it for this episode of What's on Durham. Thanks to all our guests and our Kid Fun experts for joining us today. But most of all, thank you for watching. From everyone here at the Rogers Studio, we hope you have fun with your family and friends this October, and we'll see you next time.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like crushing your cans and bottles down in your container's blue box and your box board down in your papers box. This saves a lot of space and reduces the possibility of material blowing out of your blue box on windy days.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
This is such a difficult time. Grief can manifest itself in unexpected ways.
This isn't about you. It's about Mom.
I know. Mr. Witt broke the rules. I trust you understand the repercussions if he survives.
What do you need? Guns. Lots of guns.
This is Rogers TV, Durham Region. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello everyone, welcome to Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn. Durham Mental Health Day is a day to increase awareness, address the stigma, and facilitate conversation about mental health. Today I'm speaking with the Program Executive Committee from the Carrie and Fenn Foundation, who are here to talk about Durham Mental Health Day campaign. So let's learn together. In studio with me is Mary Nepak and Georgia Fullerton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about yourself, Georgia.
Well, I am a practicing visual artist here in Durham Region. I am also an arts educator and an expressive arts therapist. So I have been in the arts since forever, always promoting the benefits of art making. I am sitting on the board of directors for the Robert McLaughlin Gallery, and I'm also on the program advisory committee for Durham College School of Media, Art and Design.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mary Nepak. I am retired from the University of Ryerson University as an educator. My goal is to be able to educate. As much as I can, and awareness of mental health, and that's my. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and given all my time to this project.
Nice. The Carrie and Fenn Foundation. Wow. That's a lot, eh?
I know.
Tell me a bit about what's the Carrie and Fenn Foundation.
The Carrie and Fenn Foundation is a registered charity established to promote health and wellness. We provide support, education, and resources for chronic disease management to the public and individuals affected by chronic and rare disease. And mental health and medical.
Yeah.
Our goal is to ensure that no one is affected by the physical, emotional, or social symptoms of chronic or rare disease.
Which is so important because with what's going on in the community now, 1 in every 12 person is affected by a rare disease or disorder. 1 in every 7 has accessibility, and mental health, 1 in every 5 individuals will be affected, right? So I've had the pleasure of going with you guys to with the Durham Mental Health campaign, which I know the team is really excited about it. Can you tell me about the Durham Mental Health Day campaign?
The campaign, well, it includes a proclamation, flag raising, and sort of a delegation of individuals. We're naming the Carrie and Fenn Foundation is naming October 10th as Durham Mental Health Day.
And that's so important. And I just wanted to say, Mayor, one of my favorite mayors, you know. It's hard to not say that. But Mayor Dave Ryan in the city of Pickering has done the honor of actually doing the first proclamation, right? So super, super excited to see that, see our team working really hard in what we're doing. And being able to make a difference in this area. So the proclamation, is that just a one-time thing in the city of Pickering, or is that a Durham regional thing? What's going on with that?
It's a Durham regional.
So is that each city and each town?
Each city and each town, and it would be, like you mentioned, flag raising, and then we're going to be in towns across regions of Durham.
Mm-hmm. And the Mental Health Forum, I know there was a symposium that goes on every year, but the Mental Health Forum, tell me a little bit about the Mental Health Forum.
So it will be the 3rd annual one, and it's a partnership between the town of Ajax and Lake Ridge Health. It will be taking place at Ajax Public Library, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it will be a combination of community partners who have different organizations. There will be a answer and question period for the community to kind of tap into what's happening with the foundation. And it's really about sharing resources and showcasing resources.
Yes, that are available within the community.
Yes.
Now, why are you guys involved in mental health, or why are you guys involved in this adventure?
Well, it is an adventure, that's true.
Involved.
Well, you know what? I believe that everyone has mental health concerns, and really for me, it's about raising awareness around mental health, and the way I do it is through the arts.
Yes.
I believe it's something in this day and age where even though mental health might be trending, so to speak, it is something that requires our awareness and our attention. So
Yes.
I'm very much attached to promoting the awareness of it.
And for me, being an educator, I see more and more that there's a need for our youths and our seniors to be aware that it is not something that you have to be uncomfortable about. Every one of us have some sort of
we all are affected by mental health.
So,
and I think too, to go to what you're saying, people don't understand that mental health, it doesn't mean mental illness, right? From good mental health, in between, and the other side of mental health, but it's a community effort.
It is a community effort.
Community effort.
Absolutely.
What is the beautiful thing I like about the program committee that was created, the inclusion, the diversity, bringing strong community leaders together to say, hey, we have to tackle this issue. Because it's not just about talking all the time.
No, it is
right? You have to take action.
Absolutely.
So bringing these strong community leaders together to work on these projects. Durham Mental Health Day.
Durham Mental Health Day. Yes, were you going to talk about that?
Durham Mental Health Day.
So the first one, I believe, is happening very shortly, and it's sponsored by the Minister of Finance.
That's correct.
MPP Rod Phillips.
Yes.
It's been an honor to work with them. But there's going to be a luncheon.
There's going to be a luncheon.
Right.
The Durham, it will be at Queen's Park.
Yes.
To discuss the opportunity to discuss with all the MPPs and their staff regarding and for them to promote it within their areas.
So
And more importantly, is sponsored by Rod Phillips, Minister of Finance, and the MPP of Ajax.
Yes.
We will be hosting a luncheon. And we will share what is going on in the region of Durham related to. And the biggest thing and the most exciting part of it is to increase awareness and provide opportunities so we can get some funding to be able to promote that all over.
So you know, when I first thought about, because mental health, our community is impacted by it like a lot. Like I said. But a lot of people are scared to get the help and support that they need because of that stigma, right? And we need to have more funding in the region.
Yes.
So the thought about having that luncheon, the individuals who are making decisions for us are at Queen's Park.
That's right.
So in order to initiate that conversation and says, hey, this is what we're experiencing, and the 10 organizations that actually going to go along with the organization are going to be able to interact with the MPPs and the foundation and be able to discuss what's happening in our region, right? Because we need to do stuff about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? What are the type of things that you think or you see, Georgia, that's impacting the community?
Well, you know, when you talk about the social determinants of mental health, and of course, we keep talking about diversity and inclusivity, speaking for any one particular community, I think that, again, that word of awareness is something that needs to be raised. People lack knowledge on even the difference between mental health and mental illness. And just having, like, if I can bring in the fact that municipalities are important because, you know, stronger together.
Yeah, there are partners.
Yeah.
They need to get involved.
That's right.
They need to, and one of the things that I would like to see the cities and towns actually do in regards to funding. Because even when we do the symposium and the forum and those type of structure, you're bringing in people from not just Ajax or Pickering, you're bringing people from Brampton, Toronto, like you're bringing people as far as 6 hours away. That, and for someone to actually travel that far, like the last event that we had were max of capacity.
I was there.
And and that shows that the need is there.
The need is there.
And the beautiful structure, the difference is when people go into a medical facility, in your mindset, it gives you that feeling, right? But to have the platform where you can openly talk about different things, right?
I think that's the key too, the fact that you're bringing it into the common community, right? Where it's not something that's hidden, trying to dispel that stigma by bringing people together, making it something that's comfortable to discuss and talk about.
I had a grandma, because every year I says, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry. I had a older lady, and she came to me and she said, it's my birthday, and she was crying. And she said, this is the best present I could have gotten. We had a gentleman, probably in his 40s, and he stood up and said, I was raped. We had a young lady who stood up and asked the psychologist, why didn't I tell my mom that my family member was sexually abusing me when it was happening? You know?
When you make it a normalized conversation, people start to use their voice.
And they know that they're free to talk about it. It's
and
not
that comfort, of knowing that you're not alone, you're in this together, and if we support each other, it'll be a lot better for us to get through it.
And you're healing yourself by talking about it and getting it out of your system.
Absolutely.
So there's a healing power going on all the time, every time you talk about it.
Yeah. I like how I see you guys glow when I don't know how you guys go along with these crazy stuff that I do. That is crazy, but you know what I mean? Try new things. And it's all about your passion for community.
Absolutely.
And your shared journey and wanting to make a difference, pulling each other in a positive way instead of a negative way. I always think, the way that I see things is, we all are a piece of the puzzle, right? And if we all play that role in what we do in completing that puzzle and working together, we'll do a lot of good. And I always follow what Barack Obama said, and like, we all have a stake in each other. Right?
That's true.
And if we can think of it that way, where we have a stake, we have a responsibility to do what we can to be able to help, we'll be able to make a difference for our community and help each other.
But what is most important is to have a leadership like yourself.
No crying.
No, that without a leadership who really believes in what they're doing, how do you lead? And how do you get your flock to follow you? And we are so excited and happy to have you leading us through this long journey of healing.
Oh,
it is strong. It is stronger together. Definitely.
Together, we're definitely stronger. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, I will be speaking to Billie Jane Bolton Rojo and Vilka Almanza. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Oh my God. I said.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday Tickets. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you'll get every live game every Sunday all season long. More plays, more action, more to love, live in HD. Order NFL Sunday Ticket for only $199.99. Get up to 200 regular season games every Sunday afternoon. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
Welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about the Carrie and Friends Foundation Durham Mental Health Day campaign. In studio with me are Billie Jane and Vilka. Welcome to the show. You guys are looking good. Financial health and mental health and so Billie Jane, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm actually a financial professional, and I founded Peak Health Financial Group, and really passionate about helping families. So we have two pillars that we help families with, and the first one is helping them to think about a knowledge legacy and building that through our ESPs. And then we also help families with protecting their legacy with insurance. So love to be able to contribute that towards helping families secure their financial future and then think about mental health through that, right?
No, that's very crucial and important because of the fact that when you're kids, you got to prepare your kids for the future.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do that, it's a panic people have when it comes to your child going off to college or university.
Absolutely.
And you're thinking of it now.
Right.
Unless there's those who can't afford it.
Right.
But if you can plan ahead of time.
Absolutely.
I started my son's RESP when he was just born, after he was born, because I was like, I'm not going to wait till the end, right?
That's the best time to plan.
Yeah, and it helps to lessen the stress on family.
Exactly.
Family members,
Exactly.
right? Phil, can you tell me about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I am a registered psychotherapist. I am in downtown Whitby. My practice is called the Inside Clinic, and I mostly work with children, families, and youth, also with individual adults that present mental health disorders or emotional distress. Sometimes it's not a disorder, but a moment of a lot of distress, a confusing or overwhelming situation, such as a life transition, a divorce, moving to a new place. But I also help people with neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism spectrum disorders or ADHD or OCD. And I work with talk therapy, so regular psychotherapy, and also direct neurofeedback, so I can help people that have trouble communicating or that prefer not to use psychotropic medications. Because working with children, I find a lot of parents and sometimes even doctors, they prefer to do psychotherapy or more natural interventions before you do any medical intervention with medicine. But I find that what she was mentioning, financial stress with adults that come to counseling, is a big component. So handling stress with money sometimes is enough to be just overwhelming and affects someone's mental health.
Right.
So that's what I dedicate all of my time to, basically. I also supervise new therapists. So I'm just starting out here.
And just to let you know, she is now a board of director for the Carrie and Friends Foundation.
Woo! That was you.
Yeah.
That is
you know what?
totally
I always
you.
believe everything happens for a reason, because we were looking for someone just like you to join the foundation to advance what we're doing in regards to health and wellness, mental health, and being able to help the community, right? It so happened that you attended the symposium and just fell into my lap.
Yeah, just like the symposium fell into my lap.
And it's a community effort, right? So why did you decide to get involved in what we're doing?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, especially when we talk about specifically mental health, I mean, I think that's something that we've all sort of faced. And I know for myself, my own journey in terms of embarking on a whole new career, right? And the financial pressures of that. And then also being part of the sandwich generation. I'm caring for 3 children, but I also have an aging mom and dealing with that, right?
Yes.
So to have an opportunity to contribute to this and help to destigmatize, you know, the issues around mental health is something that's, you know, really important to me. So to have the opportunity to partner with the team, I'm really, really thrilled to be part of it. Yes! Great peeps.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
When I walked into the symposium and everybody was so vulnerable, sharing their stories. The word to me was stigma.
Yes.
I think it's a very heavy word, not just in mental health, but with many issues. So that to me was what made it so compelling. Like I had to join this group of people that are unafraid, that are vocal and out there talking about something that's so close and dear to my heart. Not only do I dedicate my time to people like that, but I've been struggling with my own mental health as a young person, as someone taking risk, launching a new business, moving to a new area. I have to be very aware of how to take care of it, how to take care of myself so that I am able to continue helping others. But the word stigma just keeps going to the top of my list. We have to address that if we want to continue helping people and just creating a better community for ourselves.
What would you recommend for someone who has a family member struggling with mental health? Because often I hear family members will say, I have someone who is affected by mental health, and sometimes they don't know what mental health is. Because I remember another occasion I was talking to a young man who's really, really struggling, and he was talking to a family member, and he was saying, you know, these are, well, in the family, it was identified that he has mental issues, right? But then the person is like, I don't know where you get it from because we don't have mental health issues. And the way that they were talking about it, it was like she was expressing how she felt in a genuine moment. And he was right there as a young person who's affected because of all the issues that's going on. And in reality, what she was saying was so heartbreaking to him. And I listened to the two conversation, and I'm like, she didn't even realize that what she was saying was like hurting him emotionally. Like I was hurt emotionally, right? So what would you suggest to a family member who has someone who's struggling with mental health?
Well, there's 2 points of view, the family member and the person who is in distress.
Yes.
So to take care of the person who is going through any kind of difficulties, such as a physical illness or a mental illness, you have to take care of yourself.
Yes.
So we can only help others as long as it doesn't just hurt me. There are sacrifices and things we do, but sometimes we overcare to the point where we are careless with ourselves and we can't help anymore. So try to take care of yourself as much as you can if you want to truly support someone else. Now, in that act of support, it's important to protect someone's sense of belonging. It's a very basic need to feel like we belong somewhere. Even if, you know, my family wants to just get me help or wants to, it doesn't matter how they want to treat you as long as you feel like you belong to them. Like no matter what label I get from the psychiatrist or the psychologist or the doctor, it doesn't matter what they say that I have, I belong to you. So we do that by not judging and validating their feelings. Oh, you must be really angry, you must be really nervous. Yeah, that's right. It can be nerve-wracking to experienced something like that. So we have to make sure that people feel like they belong, that they're not being rejected and pushed out of our family because they're different or they're ill or they can't handle what we're going through. Always make sure that that person you love knows that they are loved. They know that they belong. And you do that by not judging.
Yeah, that's important. Billie Jane, how can family set up a better financial future for their kids and have a better financial mental health for their future?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Financial stress is a significant thing. Like over 40% of families say financial stress is their biggest stress over health, relationships, things like that. And as you'd mentioned, I'm sure a lot of families, when they are seeking support for their mental health, the basic, stressor was financial. So the best thing for families, first of all, is to lift the lid on their finances.
Yes.
A lot of us, when we're in distress, we tend to put our head in the sand, right?
Okay.
So first lift the lid of it and talk about it, right? Look at the situation. It may seem hard, scary, even shameful in some cases because, that whole keeping up with the Joneses mentality. But we need to take a hard look at that and then talk about it. Just as we talk about destigmatizing mental health, get rid of that taboo around finances and talk about it. And then seek the support from professionals to help you to either deal with the current situation or plan ahead.
That's important. Tell me, you're wearing a green t-shirt. Why?
Yes. Well, this is this is in support of Mental Health Day campaign and the Caring Foundation's support of mental health. So green is for Mental Health Day, and yes, thought I would come and showcase today.
Looking good in green. And you'll see the whole team because we're the team is actually going to every city and town in Durham region and talking to council members, the mayor about mental health, and going to Queen's Park, and you'll see the crew all in green shirts, just to help get rid of that stigma. What is the vision for the foundation in regards to
mental health?
Yeah.
Oh, we want to put it forefront for everybody. That's where we want it. We want awareness.
Yeah.
We want to create support systems, anything that gives us a platform for access.
Yes.
We want people to have access to resources, to tools, to care, because we can destigmatize, but we got to do something.
Right. Yes, yes.
Something has to be done.
It's a team effort. I love the fact, and honestly, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the police inspector, the regional chair, MPP Rod Phillips, our Minister of Finance, other mayors, council members. It's the support, the response we receive. Because the photo op is coming up with everybody, and it's just the response that we're seeing from our community leaders who are to jump ahead of this. It's just incredible. I remember Inspector Hoskins sent an email, and he's like, "I'm going to be out of the country, but you guys are doing a wonderful job, and I look forward to being involved in all your future activities." And it's just the energy and the feedback of our leaders that knows that we all have to come together and work at this. What's one advice quickly you guys can give to community members who are affected by mental health?
For community members who are affected by mental health, to be able to be open about what they're facing.
So openness is important. And Fika, just a quick
advice. Don't be afraid. The worst is the first appointment. After a first appointment, it's smooth sailing. So don't be afraid of your first appointment. Anywhere it is,
She is
anywhere.
so good to talk
your first
to.
appointment in group, your first appointment with your individual counselor, your first appointment with your doctor. It doesn't matter. After the first appointment, just rip the Band-Aid off. And go get the help. The first one's the worst. After that, smooth sailing.
And that's key information, because you're supposed to access the resources that are available to you and feel that it's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to reach out to help. It's okay to get support, and it's okay to support each other, because that's what community is all about. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn. Thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to Mary, Georgia, Billie Jane, and Vilka for speaking with me today. Please join us next time, and remember, as I say, together we are stronger.
the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
He fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Beer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
You can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
You're watching Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Welcome to the new season of the Sports Report here on Rogers TV Durham. Oshawa was the home of the Ray Carter Cup, the 15U Nationals, and Deborah Hutchison has this story.
Teams from coast to coast, 11 of the best 15U teams in the country, travel to Oshawa August 22nd to the 25th for the Ray Carter Cup Championship.
Players in this tournament, probably close to 20 players, will be eligible and likely drafted in the 2022 Major League Baseball draft. That's the kind of talent that's playing here.
2 of those teams were from Durham region. Oshawa as the host team, and Whitby, who earned the right to represent Ontario after winning the prestigious Eliminations Tournament.
We are thrilled, beyond words. Can't believe it. It was a hard go for our team to earn their way here, to get through the elims. They won their first game, lost their second, of course, went the rest of the tournament without a bye and had to fight. And they fought, and here we are. And yeah, we couldn't be more pleased, more proud.
I can't remember when 2 teams from the same region have been so close together geographically, participating at the same national championship. So for us as a host, it's incredibly exciting to have Whitby and Oshawa both playing at this national event for 15U.
This was the second year in a row that Oshawa hosted the national tournament at this age level, involving the help of countless volunteers. And like the players, the umpires also came from across the country.
It's a huge honor for the umpires. You know, they've worked for years to achieve this level, and there's only, a couple hundred people nationally that are certified to umpire at national championships. So it's a big honor for them, and they're all thrilled to be here.
Oshawa has had to modify its diamonds for this championship. At this age level in Ontario, the bases are 90 feet apart, and there is 60 feet 6 inches from the pitching plate to home plate, the same dimensions as in the MLB. However, under Baseball Canada rules, the bases are 80 feet apart and 54 feet from the pitching plate to home.
We still believe in Ontario, because we play 60-90 in Ontario, that 15U age baseball, Cal Ripken said it best in the States, when you hit 14, 15 years old, you should play 60-90 to adjust and play that distance. Most of the kids in the country play at those distances anyway, playing on travel teams, elite tournaments in the States. We just think, we do play in Ontario, so that's what we play all the time. We think it's a better game for them to adjust to 60-90 in the future. We had asked if this could be a test event for that. Wasn't quite approved for that, but I think it's making some headway, and I think there's a further discussion that Baseball Canada is very open to look at what's best for the game, and they were pretty receptive of talking about that.
A big part of this year's Ray Carter Cup was the SportsCanada.tv live stream that allowed family members and fans everywhere to watch the games as they happened. On this day, the broadcast team was Brian Oliver and Scott Sherwati.
Baseball's not a fast-moving game, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that, from a broadcast crew, Brian and I are trying to, how many pitches does the pitcher have? They sub in another batter. all the different things that goes on during the game. Just stay on top of it so we're not saying anything wrong.
Well, I think it's a real privilege to be able to call the games and to take part in something that is national in scope. So I know as a parent, as a baseball parent, what it meant to watch my son play in the national championships. So I can appreciate that for those who can't be here, whether they're in British Columbia, whether in Newfoundland and Labrador or Prince Edward Island, it's just a real thrill to help bring this event to them and hopefully get everybody's names right, get their hometown names right, and make them feel part of it. It's a really exciting thing to be part of a live broadcast.
Oshawa's first game of the tournament was against a strong team from Quebec. Quebec coming off a 13-2 win over Saskatchewan earlier that day.
There you go.
But this time, it was to be a real pitcher's battle. It wasn't until the top of the third that Quebec was able to post a run, and the score would remain 1-0 visitors until the bottom of the seventh when Oshawa struck back. With runners at first and third, a wild pitch would tie the game, and Oshawa would then score the winning run on this walk-off hit by Nolan Hartley.
Let's go, Nine! To bring home the winning run for Oshawa. That's
go!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What an exciting game. What was going through your mind there?
Just the ball was coming in. I knew I needed
Okay, Nolan. So what was going through your mind, Nolan?
There was a runner on three. I knew I could walk it off. The ball was coming in. Just made contact. Just wanted it in play.
How exciting is it for you guys to be here?
Well, really, it's a thrill of a lifetime for us. All these kids. I don't know if these young fellas realize it yet, but for me, being involved in baseball for a long time, this is one of my goals, is to play in one of these. I'm glad I get to coach in it. I'm happy for these boys. I hope they bring back, are relishing this chance.
Oshawa's second game of the tournament would be against the other Durham Region team, Whitby, now Team Ontario. Team Ontario had won their first game against BC 4-2.
Well, I'm hoping to win this thing, bring the trophy home, and be the best team in Canada.
They're tough, they're resilient, and they play the game the right way.
Ontario would win this matchup, its second game of the tournament, beating Oshawa 7-0.
There you go, Cody.
In fact, Ontario lost only one match on its journey to the gold medal championship game, where they would once again take on the squad from British Columbia. Ontario would strike first, but BC would battle back and lead for most of the game, until the bottom of the seventh, when Ontario would tie it up and eventually win the gold medal with this walk-off hit by Matt Isaacson.
What was going through your head, and how did you feel when you hit that ball and you knew it was in the gap and you had won?
I just wanted to throw everything and run around everywhere.
How are you feeling right now, Coach?
Ecstatic. I mean, it's hard to really explain. It's like, who does this? This is you're talking about 15-year-old kids. There's how many hundreds of teams in Canada, and the best ball players are in Canada. And Canada's on the map, right? And Whitby is on the map with our imports and Team Ontario. We had an amazing effort by everybody, and everybody found a way to contribute. And you saw it. It couldn't. These kids, this team here, they were the most entertaining team I've ever had. And yeah, the cardiac kids, I call them at times, and the very most talented team I've ever coached. 25 years of coaching.
With another championship now in the books, preparations are underway in Okotoks, Alberta. Okotoks will host the 2020 Ray Carter Cup. For the Sports Report, I'm Deborah Hutchison.
I want to thank Deborah for that great report on the Ray Carter Cup. And coming up next, we're going to be talking more baseball here on the Sports Report on Rogers TV Durham.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like bundling your cardboard separately. These bundles can act as a lid for your blue box or placing heavier items such as magazines on top of papers with no material above the rim.
Hey, did you know?
More than 4,500 Canadians are waiting for an organ transplant right now.
Right now. 4,500.
People are dying.
And you could save a life. 90% of Canadians say they're willing to donate their organs.
But only a few are registered.
So what are you waiting for? Get registered.
It's easy and it's free.
Leave a legacy. Be a hero.
Save a life.
Find out how to register today. Go to kidney.ca.
Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday tickets. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you'll get every live game every Sunday all season long. More plays, more action, more to love, live in HD. Order NFL Sunday Ticket for only $199.99. Get up to 200 regular season games every Sunday afternoon. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
My name is Stephanie Lorero. And I'm Ksenia Shpak, and we're the hosts of a new show here at Rogers TV called Socialite. We're here to keep you guys in the loop on all things trending, from social media to the latest tech gadgets and the wonderful world of Hollywood. We got you covered. Catch us every Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. and Fridays at 6 p.m. only here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to the Sports Report here on Rogers TV Durham. It's the all baseball episode. I'm joined by Durham College assistant coach and head coach of the Oshawa Junior Legionnaires, Scott Cocker. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I should say home or head coach of the national championship winning Oshawa Junior Legionnaires. You guys had a successful summer, capping everything off with the national championship. Just how was that winning in Gatineau this year?
Well, it was a lot of fun. It was, in all honesty, it was quite unexpected.
Okay.
We had a very young team. We had rebuilt because we had lost 13, 14 guys from our previous Ontario championship team. So a little unexpected to get a very young, fresh team, kind of inexperienced at that level, and be able to bring home a national championship. I was as surprised as anybody.
Yeah, would you say having the year before you won Ontario's and you went to nationals and didn't come back with the national championship, how did that prepare you for this year?
I think it's just like any other ball game. What happens is, as a coach, you always look back and experience from what you've learned in the past. So, having been in one, kind of like players.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have to get to the dance before they can actually get, the experience to take it to the top. So sometimes you got to get there one or twice before you're calm enough. You've learned a lot about it, and you're able to put it over the top. So that's kind of what I learned. We were there the 1 year. I always assess my coaching during that time and try to refine it, make it better. And what happens is, maybe it was the team, maybe it was the coaching, maybe it was a combination of both. But I felt like I was a much more confident, better coach the second time around than the first time around.
Well, let's talk about that national championship game. It wasn't streaming, so we're following online, a bunch of us there. And you guys got down early, and then you managed to come back, right?
We sure did. Again, I think that all stems from, again, being a young team. They're overwhelmed by the moment. We made a couple mistakes. What happened was a couple mistakes led to 5 runs real fast. It can snowball real quick, and I was in the same boat as you guys. I'm going, oh man. All of a sudden there's a 5-0 score up there, but the guys they stayed resilient. They stayed with their processes. They bought into it. They followed things, and I'll tell you what, they came back and they were confident that they were going to come back.
So those not familiar with junior baseball, just where are these players playing now? Like what is the team made up of? What type of players?
Yeah, it's a real cool level. What we have is we have a group of young men that are playing college and university baseball all over North America. So we've got some local kids, we've got some kids at university and college here in Ontario, but we've also got kids that are playing all around the U.S. as well. Very, very good baseball players.
So for those who want to check out some college baseball, you're also the assistant coach of Durham College, playing down at Kinsman Memorial Civic Stadium there. Big championship coming up October 18th to 19th. What should fans expect there?
Well, I hope they expect to see us there.
Okay, you got to qualify first, right?
Which is a neat thing. It makes the season mean a lot.
Okay.
Every game means something. Okay, so in order to qualify, you got to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
So that's why I say hopefully they'll see us there, because we want to play that well during the season that we'll qualify for it. And it's a very difficult league, so we're going to have to play very well to qualify for it. And my hopes and dreams are that we'll have a team that'll work hard, follow their processes, and do very well, not only in the season, but once we hit that OCAA championship.
And it was just announced that Sam Dempster is his final year coaching the Durham Lords after over 25 seasons, I believe. Just what have you learned from him coaching alongside Sam there on the bench at Durham College?
Sam's he's a wonderful human being. That's first and foremost. He's just a wonderful human being. He loves to share all the knowledge he can. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's done a lot of things in baseball, and his experience is really something that kind of permeates through to the assistant coaches, you know. And something he's done real well as well is he's given us a lot of autonomy as a pitching coach. Our other coaches as well have quite a bit of autonomy. He kind of spreads out the workload amongst his guys. He trusts them, and he trusts them to do a good job for him. He's a great guy, and he'll certainly be missed, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So best of luck. Hopefully we see you there October 18th and 19th. That's the OCAA Baseball Championships happening right here in Oshawa. Go to durhamlords.com for all the information. And now joining me on the Sports Report is Ashlyn Jolicoeur. Well, Ashlyn, welcome to the show. So you've become quite the hit online. I know I saw you first on online doing some crazy plays in the outfield, making some catches. Just how did that come about there?
Well, we were just doing a practice for like my baseball team. We were like in a dome, and we were doing a drill, and I told my mom to record, and then she just posted it.
So your mom was filming you playing baseball like you normally do, and you're making some great plays, and then got posted online, and then a bunch of people saw it, right? Yeah. And then, so you're holding a bat there. Yeah. Do you want to tell me about that bat a little?
It's a bat like that, the top 10 ESPN thing.
Yeah.
And I got this one. I saw my banner on the air quad.
The air quads. Okay, that's awesome. And it also says something there. Yeah. It says the hardest working player I've coached, right?
Yeah.
So are you a really hard working player then when it comes to baseball, and you practice hard?
Yeah.
That's great. So what did you think when all these people were reaching out to your family and like you're seeing your highlight on TV and on the internet? What were you thinking about that?
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Like seeing that.
Yeah, I would say so. And then you're wearing your ball cap there, the Toronto Blue Jays. Did you hear anything from the Blue Jays or anything like that?
Well, I went to the game. I don't know when, but we went to the game, yeah. And I got to meet all the players.
Yeah? How was that? Who was your favorite player?
Vladdy.
Vladdy, yeah. And then do you hope someday to maybe try and play for the Blue Jays, or you're going to stick with baseball and things like that? Yeah. And then what's your favorite part about playing baseball then?
I don't know.
You just like playing, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Whitby. They won the national championship in Oshawa this year. Yeah. Did you get to meet that team as well?
Yeah, I got a picture with them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. And then what do all your teammates in Whitby think about you being on the internet and on TV? Do they think it's pretty cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple more questions. Just what's your favorite position playing for baseball?
I like all the positions.
All the positions, yeah? There's not one particular one, or pitcher or catcher?
Well, I do like pitcher and catcher and second base.
And then just telling all the other kids out there, just why do you work so hard on the field and work so hard on your game and just to get better every day? What motivates you, basically? You just like playing baseball and having fun? Well, I think that's the message for everybody, is just to be like Ashlyn, have fun out there and have a great time. All right, Ashlyn, so thanks for joining us here on the Sports Report. It's great to see you online. Hopefully we see you in the major leagues someday. And with highlights like that, I think we are going to see that. So thanks a lot, Ashlyn.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like crushing your cans and bottles down in your container's blue box and your box board down in your papers box. This saves a lot of space and reduces the possibility of material blowing out of your blue box on windy days.
It's a crazy real estate world out there. The battle of the bids, the housing bubble, the all too popular impending crash, yeah, whatever. If you want the real deal when it comes to the market here in the Durham region, I've made it so all your questions are answered, ensuring your next move is your best move. So join me. Get your house sold with Sean Lackey.
This is Oran's key tag. When you use a key tag, you protect your keys. If you lose your keys,
the finder can call the number on the back of the tag
or drop them in any mailbox, and the Warrants will return your keys to you
for free. Order your key tags today at warramps.ca
and make a difference in the lives of amputees like me. Thank you.
It's TIFFmas once again on Cinema Scene with film critic Dave Voigt here to spread some good cheer. We'll be making our lists and checking them twice. Gonna find out what movies could be naughty or nice.
OHL action on Rogers TV.
Hey, we've got big sporting news coming out of Whitby, and Adam Dunphy has a report.
Everywhere we go, there will be signs of hockey, and we can't wait to stop at each and every one of them.
Rogers Hometown Hockey is back for a 6th season, and that means that once again Tara Sloan and Ron McLean will be crisscrossing the country to tell all of Canada's hockey stories. And on December 29th, they will be in Whitby as the Montreal Canadiens take on the Florida Panthers. And Ron, you're pretty much a hockey encyclopedia. So when I say Whitby and hockey, what comes to mind?
Well, I often answer, Adam, that the two most interesting people I've ever talked hockey with. Now, this is no disrespect to Scotty Bowman, Wayne Gretzky, Don Cherry, but the two most interesting people for me are Bobby Clark and Harry Sinden, who, of course, the Whitby Dunlops were world champions, and he was the captain of that team. He learned something special there. So I would start with Harry, and you know the rest. Bobby Orr is next door in Oshawa, and Eric Lindros, you cover the Jennies. So that whole area, and for me, James Neal. Whitby is also for me. I know, again, not Gary Robertson, Joe Newendijk, don't get mad at me, but it's James Neal and his dad, Peter.
Tara, your 6th season now as a host of Rogers Hometown Hockey. Is there one thing to you that really sticks out that you enjoy in this job?
It's all about the people.
if it weren't for the people and the stories, it would become a drag. But, you know, we are welcomed with open arms wherever we go, and Canada really tends to trust us with their stories. And, you know, for that reason, we can get to the heart of the matter. So that's it. It's all about humans.
Now, this will not be your first time in the Durham region. Back in 2015, you were in Oshawa right around the same time, just around the Christmas break. What do you both remember about that trip?
Well, Tim Hicks was incredible. He performed, so we have a musical component to many of the broadcasts, and even if we don't have music on the actual NHL telecast, we'll have music as part of the festival over the 2 days, and he was fantastic. And I mentioned Eric brought his son, Carl Pierre, was just a toddler, and he was learning to skate at that broadcast in Oshawa, and that's a special, you know, Rocco Tullio and the Generals. Adam Graves is a dear friend. He's involved with the program, and it's one of the premier hockey programs in the world. And so that was neat to go there. And Whitby's the same. Whitby's got that legacy of, you know, excellence that we'll be so grateful to showcase. And yeah, it's an amazing. Tara's right. It's about relationships. You know, your brother Evan, when he took care of the guy at the Rio Olympics, that's a memory I'll never forget. That was a moment of sportsmanship, which for me supersedes or exceeds any victory.
Anything that sticks out to you from that trip to Oshawa, Tara?
I remember getting a chance to, that was the first time I actually met Gary Roberts, and so I am so interested in him as a person. You know, what makes a guy like that tick? Somebody who's able to recover from injury the way that he did, and is so disciplined with his body. So that's a big memory that sticks out for me.
I used to live down the street from the Gary Roberts gym, and you know, whenever you go for a run and you see that name on the sign, you run a little bit harder because you're afraid he might be watching, and you don't want to let Gary Roberts down when it comes to fitness.
That's true.
He told me a great story a year ago, Adam, of Connor McDavid saying to Steven Stamkos, I can't shoot one-timers. And they both train with Gary, right? So not bad. And Connor had 25 pucks on the one face-off circle, and Stamkos had 25 on his right-hand shot. So Connor feeds him 25 pucks, and he hits the net 24 out of 25, Stamkos. Then Stamkos passes to Connor, and he only hits the net 4 times. So maybe that's why he's taken extra time in preseason this year. No, I don't know, but you know, Gary loves those stories. He's a teacher. He's done more to make players understand not just their bodies, but their profession. Amazing.
And of course, hometown hockey's not just about the broadcast. It's an entire weekend celebrating the game. What other activities can visitors expect to see when they come out for the event in Whitby?
Well, it's a big family-friendly festival. We run throughout the Saturday and the Sunday. A bunch of tents set up. We have a ball hockey rink, alumni signings, music going on all throughout the day. There's games, contests. And as a parent, I have to say, it's really nice to find a way to spend some time with the entire family, and it doesn't cost a penny.
And again, it will be in Whitby. The Rogers Hometown Hockey Tour on December 29th. The Montreal Canadiens taking on the Florida Panthers. Ron, Tara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Adam. Thank you.
I want to thank Adam Dunphy for that report. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sports Report here on Rogers TV Durham.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
When you're away from the gym, here's what CrossFit Oshawa does to keep fit.
I want to show you a pull-up today because it's a functional movement that utilizes your entire body. If that's too challenging, scale it back to a jumping pull-up. Box jumps are great because they help you develop power in your lower body, and if you do enough reps, they elicit a great cardio response as well. We jump, land, and stand. To make that easier on your ankle, we can jump, land, stand, and step down. Burpees are everyone's favorite. They have a love-hate relationship because they're so great at developing that cardio response. In a burpee, chest goes to the floor, jump and clap overhead. Another one that I love to do is just getting out and running with the dog. I'll see you outside.
I joined because I wanted to help others.
To be a part of something bigger.
To show my kids what's important.
I joined to make my community stronger.
To make a difference in someone's life.
To acknowledge that our freedoms come at a cost.
I joined to honor my mom.
My grandpa.
My neighbor.
Everyone who served.
Who are serving still.
I joined.
I joined.
I joined the Legion.
This is Rogers TV, Durham Region. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
We're back from taking a month break for the holidays, and we are here at Berkeley Bicycle Club on a rather mild, cold, wintry night, I think. Yeah, kind of. And we have a wonderful, fantastic audience, a big audience actually. So welcome, thank you for being here. This is the first episode we filmed in 2019. Why don't we all wish the audience at home a Happy New Year. So all together, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Although probably by the time you see this, it's going to be about a month into the new year. But hey, why not? Hope your 2019 is filled with awesome dreams and everything you wish for. I need to do a couple of shout outs. First, one to Berkeley, the venue that we film at. They've been an amazing filming partner. They're an LGBTQ friendly venue. But also they've been so accommodating, so nice, so easy to work with, so welcoming of us and all our demands for everything that we need here. So also Rogers TV team, who's been such a great people with helping putting this show on air, and really been kind. Another shout out to you, the audience, Rogers audience at home and the audience here. Yes, let's give a big round of applause to everyone that I mentioned. Thank you. A couple of news about the show. First, Addie Johnson, our reporter, is busy with some projects now. So last episode was really his last episode, but we're hoping to get him in the future as a guest reporter. Also, I want to mention that we are working on something really, really big for this show to grow it. That's all what I'm going to tease you with for now. But keep your fingers crossed for us, please. And that's the news. Let's get to this episode. We have Kat Grant will be chatting with the wonderful singer Anna Gutmanis. And Boyd Kodak, we're going to be visiting with author, comedian, provocateur, the one and only Mandy Goodhandy. So this should be really, really good. Don't go anywhere. My guest, my personal guest, is a well-known artist in the community. He is a performer, he's a singer, he's a dancer, he's a writer. I don't know what else you do. You do everything.
I do everything.
He is also very involved behind the stage, behind the scene. Everyone, please help me welcome one of our most loved community artists in our community, Ryan Graham Hines. Yay!
Thank you, Antoine.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hey, babe. I've been trying to get hold of you, but it was hard to get your contact.
I'm slippery. I'm all over the place always.
You remind me of my boyfriends. They play hard to get.
Remind me of my boyfriends as well.
I'm kidding. You are a super busy guy. I know that. When I prepare for an interview, I usually creep my guests on social media. I have to say, you are such a nice guy. Your posts are positive. You're always happy. The only thing funny that I could find was you joking about how tall you are. Although now that I'm sitting with you, you're not that tall.
I'm barely 6'1", but everybody in my family is like short. So all my family pictures, it's like my mother, my godmother, my aunt, me,
you look
everybody
like a monster.
else. I look like the Jolly Green Giant come down from the beanstalk.
Okay, let's talk shop now.
Okay.
Let's start with shop. Let's start by touching on what I mentioned about you working behind stage. You are currently an associate artist at Lemon Tree Creations. What does that entail?
So basically, I'm part of the core artistic team at Lemon Tree. I help decide what shows we're working on in the coming years. I help do the hiring. I help with the grant writing. When we're in production, I help with the producing tasks. And I'm just generally part of the team helping to steer the artistic course of the organization.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a good job. You previously also were an artist in residence at Buddies in Bad Times Theater. For those who don't know it, it's one of the most world-renowned queer theater spaces in the world. How was that experience for you?
I can't say enough good things about Buddies. Buddies really changed my life, especially this residency. I developed 4 shows, 2 of which have gone on to bigger and better things elsewhere. So Buddies is kind of my creative home.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, they're nice people.
Yeah.
There, so I love them. Yeah. You also now sit on Canadian Actors Equities Association. I want to read this correctly. 2018 to 2021 National Council as second vice president, and on Actors LGBTQ committee.
Yeah.
Ask you, being represented and having our queer voices heard, is that important to you? I'm assuming.
It's so important to me. That's actually the platforms on why I ran. I've always thought about how many doors are closed to us in the industry and how hard it is sometimes to get through those doors. So if I can be part of the team that's helping to open them for other people, then I'm going to do that.
You're a good man. All right, thank you. We're going to take a little break. We're going to visit with Kat and Anna, and we will be right back. So stick around. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with multi-talented singer-songwriter Anna Gugmanis today. Hi, Anna. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Kat. It's awesome to be here.
I'm glad you're here, too. I read that you're from London, Ontario. And I'm curious to know, and I'm sure everyone else is, did you come from a creative family?
Oh, I did, yeah. Both of my parents were very much into music. They actually met while doing a Latvian folk dance. That's my ethnicity. I'm ethnically Latvian from Eastern Europe. And then they also joined the same choir, and they were both major music fans. My mom more of, I used to call her a bit of a classical snob. She loved opera. My dad was more into the popular music of the day, and he was always making up these silly little songs off the top of his head. And he was also a visual artist. My brother's a visual artist. All of us are into photography and some drawing. And yeah, so I would say we're a pretty creative bunch.
So your mother had you perform at a holiday party when you were very, very young, and that's your first memory of performing. And then what did you do with that?
Well, I mean, I guess after that, I sort of discovered this not shy side of myself, because I was a very shy, withdrawn kid. And I thought, well, maybe I can do something with that. And, then when I heard the music of Laura Nyro, I thought, oh, I can really run with that and be a performer as well as write.
That's someone who inspires you.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. She is one of my sister's favorite artists as well, and I heard her off one of my sister's albums and just fell in love with it. And she was a self-taught pianist, had a really, really soulful voice, and 3-octave range. And and then, I listened to tons of other stuff as well, throughout my teen years and whatnot.
And you also took piano.
I did. Yeah, I started piano lessons when I was 7. And yeah, I did the whole Royal Conservatory piece. I went to piano lessons every Saturday instead of going to Latvian school. as some of my siblings remind me. And but I think it all paid off. And I got my grade 9 when I was 16, and then I'd started writing my own stuff.
Which is all about social justice and inspiring other people as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm inspired by. It's always been important to me. I've just always been what I call, I guess, an equity geek, for lack of a better term. I've just never understood bigotry, and Laura Nero and people like that I admire didn't either. So I feel like I've learned from the best that way.
Tell everyone what's coming up next for you.
Oh, well, I've got this amazing benefit coming up that I'm super excited about. Also working in social services, I've worked at PFLAG camp for LGBTQ youth. So we're doing a benefit for this Camp Rainbow Phoenix on February 4th. And it's going to be a Glad Day bookshop, and a whole bunch of amazing kick-ass artists are going to be there. I mean, Jeffrey Straker, Nadia Hai, Rakatak, Katie Morley, and Troy Jackson. And it should be an awesome evening raising funds.
I'll come check it out. Tell everyone the name of your CD.
I have a bunch of CDs. My full-length CD is called Glimmer in the Dark.
Okay, tell everyone where they can reach you.
Oh, well, I've got a website, so it's www.annagutmanis.com. It's phonetic. And yeah, there's a store section, picture section, anything you want to know about me is there.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, thanks,
I really
Kat.
appreciated having you come in.
Oh, I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like bundling your cardboard separately. These bundles can act as a lid for your blue box or placing heavier items such as magazines on top of papers with no material above the rim.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
We're back with Ryan Graham Hines. Ryan, where did it all start for you as an artist? What got you down this path that you're on?
I started very young. When I was 2 or 3, my mom took me to play at the local library theater. It was Babar the Elephant, if any of you remember that story.
Of course.
And it was told with puppets and masks.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly what happened in the story, but I remember being emotionally affected by the story on stage, and also by how the audience was feeling. I could feel that the audience was responding to what was on stage, and right away I was like,
I want to do that.
I think that's something I want to do.
Nice. All right, so we know where it all started. Now, I'm going to be reciting snippets from your very impressive and long resume, but I don't want to do something that we can find online.
Okay.
Let's make it this fun.
Okay.
I'm going to mention something you've been in. Give me a little line describing the experience.
All right.
Playing Hedwig in Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Playing Hedwig and the Angry Inch was so much fun because I was so skinny. I was so skinny at the time. I looked fabulous. It was really special to me as well because I was the first black actor to play the role. So I think of it with a lot of fond memories.
Nice. I have no idea what this is, but sounds like a blast. Being in MacArthur Park Suite, a disco ballet at SummerWorks.
Yeah, so we created a disco ballet out of the Donna Summer song MacArthur Park Suite. Full disco. We had confetti and a disco ball and tambourines, but full ballet as well. So we had tutus and point work. It was a lot of fun.
Traditional ballet, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, nice. You were Brit in the North American regional premiere of We Will Rock You.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to sing because it's all Queen music, which is super, super, super high. So when I wasn't on stage, I had to be very disciplined and guard my voice and guard my physicality and rest a lot. And
wow,
yeah.
Cool. You were in Dance Theater Hybrid MSM, Men Seeking Men on Tour.
Yeah.
What is that?
Now, with a title like MSM, obviously it's going to be a very sexy show,
Sexy,
and it was, and that's my main memory of it. Lots of sexy cast members. Everybody was very beautiful in their own kind of empowered way, and the text was very sexual and erotic as well.
Nice.
It's a dance show, and I'm at the time.
It's a dance show.
Yeah, at the time, the last time we did it, I was 39, which is this past August, and it felt good to be kind of like pushing 40 and still being able to
you're
dance.
still doing it?
Yeah,
Oh,
still
cool.
being able to get the choreography done.
Okay.
Not for too many more years, but.
Doing a solo show, hashtag Candor and Ebb, which toured internationally to critical and audience acclaim. Everyone, what is that?
Well, it's hashtag Candor and Ebb is the favorite show that I've done. It's based around my experiences being a fan and then getting to know John Candor and Fred Ebb, who wrote Cabaret in Chicago and shows like that. And I love it because it comes from my personal experience, but it's also been successful. So like we've been able to tour it to New York and Orlando and Montreal and here in Toronto a few times, and it's always received well. So it makes me happy.
It took you to some good places.
Yeah.
Cool. Any new personal projects in development for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This spring, I'm part of the cast of Lilies at Buddies in Bad Times.
Okay.
It's we're doing a new production of the classic Michel-Marc Bouchard play, English translation, and it's a fabulous cast. We have some Broadway veterans. We have actors who've worked all over the world, more established actors, more younger actors, and it's going to be a really exciting time.
Good for you. Let's touch a little bit about being an artist. Have you faced challenges along the way, adversities, or has your journey been great and lucky and fantastic?
It's a little bit of both. Ultimately, I am a happy-go-lucky person. I am an optimist. I like to be positive and joyful in my experience of the world. But being an artist is hard sometimes. There's not a lot of money, especially when you're doing theater. It's a lot of hard work, long hours. So you really have to stay focused, and you have to really push yourself to work hard, which is something I like doing and something I enjoy. But I didn't necessarily anticipate how hard it was going to be.
I like that advice, staying focused.
Yeah.
It's very important in any career, really. Yeah. Being an artist takes a lot of your energy personally, because it's very personal. What do you do to recharge?
I sleep. I sleep whenever I can, wherever I can.
That's it? Sleeping?
That is all. I sleep on the subway. I sleep on the bus on my way home. I get some sleep wherever I am.
And you said earlier staying dehydrated?
Yeah, no, staying hydrated. I drink water like a fish. And all my friends always make fun of me because wherever I am, there's a glass of water within a 2 feet.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Right
Let's
here.
get dehydrated. All right, now that we're dehydrated.
water like a plant. I love it.
What is your advice to an up-and-comer, somebody sitting at home or in the audience thinking, I want to do what he's doing?
Well, I would say you have to love it. You have to be prepared to work hard and honor the art, and you have to uphold everybody around you.
That's a great advice. Thank you. Thanks. With that, we are going to take a little break. And we are going to be visiting with Boyd Kodak and Mandy Goodhandy, and then right back with Ryan here. So stay here. All right, we'll be right back.
And have some more water.
And more water. Yeah. It's all about the water.
Hi, Boyd Kodak here. This episode, I have the pleasure of chatting with the legendary and lovely singer, comedian, writer, and co-owner of Club 120 and 120 Diner, Mandy Goodhandy. Welcome, Mandy.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you with us.
That was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Whoa. You didn't have to say it. 2018 was a big and successful year for you and some new ventures. So can we talk about Let's Call Me Lady? Just Call Me Lady.
Yeah, you don't even know the name of my book? What the heck is going on here? Just Call Me Lady. I'm just kidding with you, Boyd. Yes, let's talk about that.
Just Call Me Lady. Just Call Me Lady is a CD and a book.
The chicken or the egg is the way I like to say it when it comes to the CD and the book, like which one I worked on first. Because I've had a long experience in singing and in a theater world, and that's where the singing came in. And when it came to my memoirs, I was basically adding to them over the last 25 years. and coming to realizations and facing things that I was uncomfortable facing before, and realizing once I found who I was, it was so much easier writing about things that I thought were really more painful than they really were. When you get in touch with yourself, you're more confident and you're more relaxed, and then when you're kind of looking at it going, oh yeah, that did happen to me. And it was really bad at the time, because you always think everything that's going on at the time is the worst thing ever.
But you survived it.
Well, this is the thing. I survived it. And the most important thing is the people that were giving me a hard time, they survived as well. And then what happened with the CD is I got back in touch with, and the reason I say back in touch with my voice is I couldn't find my voice when I was trying to live as a male. And I was in theater and I was auditioning for all these male roles. And I had to kind of place my voice in a situation that wasn't comfortable for me. And so when I finally got in touch with my voice through Girls' Night Out at 120 Diner on Wednesday nights, it's an open stage, and I finally got in touch with my voice, with encouragement from that community, going up there and just doing it and just singing. And then I eventually went, oh, okay, this is the way I should have been singing all the time, but I wouldn't have been acceptable as in a male role singing the way I sing now. And so that's what I mean when I say find my voice. And then I was encouraged to, why don't you do a CD of all the songs that you think will connect to the book?
So you often perform as a queer performer in a mainstream venue.
Yes.
How does that feel, and how do they accept you? And
well, I think the main question to that would be, why do I do that?
Yeah, that's a really good. Why
because
do you do
a lot of the queer comedy events and people who are running, queers who are running queer comedy shows, feel that I am either rejecting them or not wanting to be on their shows, which is not the truth. What it is as a trans woman and as a sex worker, I want to be out in the mainstream educating them. I don't need to educate the queer community. They're already used to trans people. Yes. They've met trans people. Mainstream people have not met us. And they need people up there showing that we have a sense of humor, we can be funny. This is the way I'm going to educate you on what trans is, by humor.
Right.
And making jokes about it. I can laugh at myself. And actually also educating them what they cannot say to trans people, how they should be communicating with trans people. Because a lot of the times after the show is over, people will come over and go, I did not know that. I didn't know anything about that. And I'm thinking in my head, I wonder why that is. That's because we're too protected in our own community, and our community, don't get me wrong, is extremely important. We need to build community and we need to stay strong, but we also need to be out there teaching people in the mainstream about us. If they don't know who we are, and they don't know anything about us, they're never going to learn, and we're never going to get full acceptance.
That's awesome, and thank you so much for doing that, Mandy, because that's an important, one of the most important things that needs to be done and continue to be done. We have to wrap up, but just tell us what's next, and what can we look forward to?
Well, I'm working on a screenplay.
Excellent.
I'm going to do that this year of Just Call Me a Lady. My audiobook version of Just Call Me a Lady is coming out soon. And I had got the opportunity of actually reading the book myself, so it's all me reading my own life story. And that was really quite enjoyable for me to do. And again, reliving everything I went through, and again, healing even more through it.
Fantastic.
So my message, if you don't mind, out to anybody out there who is in the queer community, tell your story. Get out there. Do not be afraid, because if you show that you're afraid, then they're going to just pack us down, and they're not going to take us seriously, and they're going to think that we don't belong and we don't exist. And the important thing is showing that we exist and telling people out there that we do.
Keep up with Mandy at www.mandygoodhandy.com.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like crushing your cans and bottles down in your container's blue box and your box board down in your papers box. This saves a lot of space and reduces the possibility of material blowing out of your blue box on windy days.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on our cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
It's Tifmas once again on Cinema Scene with film critic Dave Voigt here to spread some good cheer. We'll be making our lists and checking them twice. Gonna find out what movies could be naughty or nice.
Thank you. Let's do a few things in this segment. First, we usually talk to our guests about family and upbringing. Care to share?
Absolutely.
All right.
On my mom's side, I'm Irish. On my dad's side, I'm Dominican, and I was born here in Canada, in Mississauga specifically. So, hello, 905.
Hello, 905.
And I'm close to my mom. My mom's always been very supportive of me, very encouraging of me. She didn't ever push me, which I have appreciated. A lot of people in the arts, they have pushy parents. My mom kind of let me explore what I wanted. If I was going down a bad path, she'd let me discover it was bad before she pulled me back. But she's been very supportive of me over the years.
Mom. Good, good. Now let's cover a couple more questions before we jump into our usual quickies.
Okay.
Let's talk about our community, which is now our chosen family. What are your thoughts on community past and present? How well are we doing in the LGBTQ community?
Well, I've always believed in the idea of unity. Depending on who you are, you're either an older member of the community or a younger member of the community. So I think it's important, if you're an older member of the community, to listen to the younger generation. And I think for the younger generation, it's important to honor the older generation and respect them.
Two-way street?
Two-way street. Everybody's just got to listen to each other and
that
understand.
creates respect and conversation. Absolutely. You know what? I really love that. I don't think actually any of our guests ever answered that to this question. So good. What makes you happy in the world, and what makes you sad? Actually, you know what? Let's switch it. What makes you sad first, and then we'll end with happy.
What makes me sad is when people don't listen to each other, when people are arguing and fighting. I think a lot of misunderstanding in the world comes from people just not listening to each other. What makes me happy is very simple, basic things. I'm kind of a hippie that way. Sunshine makes me happy. A beautiful cat on the street makes me happy. A nice cupcake makes me happy.
You know what? The simplest things in life are the most awesome things. Absolutely. Well, that concludes the official portion of the interview. Let's get to the quick questions.
I love a quickie.
Yeah, we like a quickie.
How many times have people sitting on the couch made that joke before? I feel like I need to think of a new one.
The show. All the episodes. Okay, answer me first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Favorite cuisine to eat out?
Sushi.
Favorite dish to cook at home?
Shrimp curry.
Oh, I'm coming over after. Favorite season of the year?
Summer.
What would a romantic date look like?
I can't tell you on television.
Okay, we'll omit that question. Pets or no pets?
Pets. I have a beautiful cat named Sammy.
Oh, Sammy?
Sammy, yeah.
Hi, Sammy.
Hi, Sammy.
And if I ask you to sing one song right now, what would be the first song that comes to mind without thinking?
Somewhere over the rainbow.
There we go. That's Ryan singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow to us. Yes, thank you, Ryan. Last words to our LGBTQ community at home?
Last words, respect each other, love each other, listen to each other, and let's all uphold each other.
And last words to our viewers and audience.
You guys are great. Thank you for coming tonight. You look awesome. Very, very nice.
We do.
I'll see you after.
There we go. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank
all right.
you.
Beautiful. Thanks, babe. Well, we're done. Write us via Facebook, facebook.com/join us on the couch. You can get some free tickets to be in the audience. Everybody's having fun. You could be here next time. It's a new year, and as we always say, it's all about love. Love each other, be kind to yourself and to everyone around you, and see you soon on the couch. Take good care. Bye.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
The law states a boater must carry up-to-date charts in the largest scale available for the body of water on which they are boating. Nautical marine charts are available for all charted waterways across Canada. Mobile navigation apps can also be a good navigation aid. If you are using an app or electronic charts, it's a good idea to carry paper charts as well. They are a good backup in case of a power failure.
It's getting so cold.
You have become close to Abigail. She is a viper.
I'm getting super evil vibes.
I don't get it.
I'm trapped in a romantic comedy.
5,000 baptized.
I think somebody turned on the waves.
This is Rogers TV, Durham Region. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Oh, hey everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the season finale of Digital Circus. I'm host Tyler Hodgkinson. It's been an incredible ride filming the show, and I can't wait until you get to see what we have planned for season 2. But since the very first episode, it's been my goal to interview the man who inspired me, both in my childhood and adult years, to dream big. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. As the host of Electric Playground for more than 20 years, Victor Lucas has earned one of the greatest legacies in this business, and it was an honor to interview the master interviewer. Here's our chat from Fan Expo Canada in September. I'm here with the one, the only, Victor Lucas at Fan Expo Canada.
Hello.
You're here promoting your 8-bit beans.
Yes.
You're here.
We've got a coffee now, which is just incredible. Like the Brad, who runs 8-bit beans and also Deadly Grounds, he reached out earlier this year and he said, "I've got this idea. I want to make a coffee around EP and you." And I went, "That's ridiculous and crazy, but I think it's wonderful." And I said, "Of course, let's do it." And so he bounced some ideas off me, and it ended up being a version of our set. It's called the Espresso Playground Coffee, and they made me an 8-bit pixel art dude, and I've never looked better than that right there, right? I look amazing.
It's pretty good. Yeah, you've been into the industry for a long time covering games.
Yeah, 25 years.
Yeah. So how have you seen the industry change throughout those years?
You know, in a lot of ways, some incredible sort of achievements in terms of visual fidelity and audio fidelity, and lots of different ways to access the game consumer out there, but also in a lot of ways not enough. You know, there's been some incredible recent news with this idea of bringing people in for subscription models. Nintendo's about to drop their online store or their online plan for Switch owners out there, and it's really going to be about paying a monthly fee and having access to titles. Of course, PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold offer some stuff, but Xbox just recently did something where that seems like an incredible way to attract a lot of people, where it's called Xbox All Access. It's not available in Canada, unfortunately.
Right, of course.
But the idea that you could subscribe to a console, own the console, so it's kind of rent to own, and all of the online service and access to like more than 100 games, that's exciting. That's kind of a major kind of shift in thinking, because I feel like one of the major issues with video games, I've said this for years, is that incredible price barrier to entry. It's a luxury item that most people just don't have the wherewithal to say, "I'm going to try everything." They can't. So they choose one. Like, it's every time I tweet out, "What are you playing right now?" I'm always astounded that it's games that are 6 months old or a year old. You know, because I'm in the business of talking about the current and the upcoming and the new. And so when I see stuff from viewers that is very much about, well, I can only really afford to play the Steam sale games, or this thing's free this month, or whatever, that really drives it home. Games have been too expensive. It costs too much to make that decision, and I think that's held back the medium from a lot of people being able to access, which is the most incredible art form that humans have ever created, you know, and you know that because you play everything. I know that. The cameraman knows that, but a lot of people don't have.
He just plays Cuphead, and that's about it.
Well,
no, he plays a lot. I'm just kidding.
No, but seriously, there's a lot to enjoy out there for everyone, and most people don't think about it that way. Pikachu's there to say hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Pikachu. Pika. What excites me is, and what I mean by there hasn't been enough change, is that when I came into this, games were expensive. I've been doing this 25 years. Games are expensive. The core demo that the games industry seems to keep chasing is the same kind of person, you know? And one of the things that has excited me about what I've been able to do with Electric Playground is, you know, we reached families. We got a lot of people to sit and watch this material together, and that was a profound thing, you know? And I would hear from moms, and I would hear from grandparents, and I would hear from little kids that watch the material, and we kind of provided this access point, and I felt like the business needs to do a lot more of that itself.
Right. Well, one of my favorite things about your YouTube channel, actually, is when you do Let's Plays with your daughter.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So, like, how's it experiencing games again, kind of through a child's lens?
It's amazing. Yeah. No, it's not easy to engage a child and have them be blown away by the character development and the stories and the action that games provide. What's really cool is to hear them echo the minutia of these plots and these characters and connect with them like they would an episode of Paw Patrol and I've seen that with my daughter firsthand, you know, like she'll remind me of the lore.
And then with your channel too, you talk about all the things that you love.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about going from TV to YouTube is that a lot of people have kind of transitioned because a lot of people are on YouTube.
Yeah.
How has it been seeing all the fans that watch the show can now interact with you?
It's amazing. This year we launched what I think is probably the best thing we've made with EP Live, because it blends you know, the scripted stuff, or not scripted, the edited stuff that we would do, not scripted. We don't have time for scripts, but we shoot a lot of stuff.
Well,
and
Blake, if Blake did more work around there, maybe.
We need Blake to do a few more things. No, but we package things together, and then we do a lot of live content and put it all into like a show. And I just wish that I had really pushed on that when I had the bigger TV collective, and we were doing both of those at the same time. But even without all that group of people, I think we're still making something really phenomenal today. And I try to include as many of them as I can, and I reach out to the community as much as I can, and we have awesome guests, and it's really fun. It is, in 2018, absolutely the right way to experience what we do. And to interact with the people through all of that in real time is insane. It's so great, you know, and I have the best viewers of this material in media, you know, because most of them have watched this stuff for a while. They trust what we're about, and there's respect, and it's not just about, you know, this game cost too much and I didn't like it, or, you know, that didn't have enough features for me, or they promised me that. I've got really savvy, intelligent, compassionate, you know, optimists that believe in this medium that watch our material. So it's really cool. The only thing I don't have with YouTube is that family watching together dynamic, you know? I have it in little bits and pieces, but TV as a platform allows a group of people to gather, you know, which is one thing that I definitely miss. Yeah.
So maybe one final question is, what is the future of EP? Because it's changed so much over the years.
Yeah.
Where do you see it in a few years, even a year from now?
Well, I'm continuing on with EP Live, and we're going to be trying to embellish and add some new components to it and some new ideas. We've done This Day and Everything Cool all year this year. Next year we'll come up with some other kind of a daily kind of element to add to the material. But I really believe in this as a new format. But we're also starting to have more conversations because we have continued to build this material with other potential distribution partners. And what I've realized is the more that we do and the more that we stick to our guns and just make something that we're proud of, cool opportunities keep coming up. Yeah.
Well, when you're a fan of the product, other people will be a fan of the product a lot of the time.
Yeah, be proud of what you're signing your name to. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what job you have. I mean, there's two things. Don't spend your life doing things you hate, you know. Everybody's got to do crap jobs for a little while, for sure, but don't do that forever because you're just not going to be happy in your life. So when you do find things that make you happy, just make sure that you are proud to sign your name to it, you know, and show up every day. Even show up every day when it's a job you don't like, you know, because you're going to learn from that some great lessons that you'll be able to apply elsewhere. But also, don't take any crap from bosses that suck either, you know. You are more valuable as someone that contributes to something than that person that's lording it over you. You know, so always remember that too. Yeah.
Always a valuable lesson from Victor Lucas. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me on.
After the break, my review of Marvel's Spider-Man.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The X-Men fear you. And what they fear, we seek to destroy.
Think about why the show is bad and come up with ways to fix it.
I have some jokes for the mama. I shouldn't do this in an English accent, should I?
No. Tom Cruise is the same age as me. He gets to fight the mummy. I am the mummy.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
Have a Holden one at 15.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Did you know that golf is the #1 participation sport in Canada? Don Reese visits the links at Golfer's Dream in Scugog and Mill Run in Uxbridge to find out why golf is truly the game for everyone. Only on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Jeff Mason. Do you love gardening? Do you want to learn how to turn your garden into a beautiful oasis? Join us each week on Let's Get Growing, only on Rogers TV.
Totally worked last time. Yuri, they still doing construction on 42nd and 1st?
Street's closed for another month. Why?
Next stop, prison. The more I played the newest Spider-Man game, the more apparent it became it may just be my favorite game of all time. Yes, of all time. The newest adventure from the web slinger offers everything I expected while adding some spectacular surprises and truly amazing moments. See what I did there? First and foremost, I want it to be known that this instant classic is not perfect. Just because it may be my favorite game doesn't mean I believe it to be the best game. There are a few unnecessary gameplay and cinematic sequences, and combat isn't as fluid as it could be. What may be the biggest issue for some is that it feels too familiar. Borrowing heavily from the open world games before it, mainly the Batman Arkham series, Spider-Man follows a lot of tropes found in the genre. From unlocking side missions and collectible locations by clearing towers, to a generic skill tree progression, there isn't much that the game originates. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Nearly everything Spider-Man does, borrowed or not, is done extremely well. Its perfect pacing makes every section as thrilling as the last. Even the low-energy puzzle moments playing as Peter Parker are just as exciting as the bombastic action sequences. You're never stuck in one style of gameplay for long, which makes it easy to find yourself slipping into long sessions with the game. I personally spent hours with my hands glued to the controller and my eyes fixated on the TV just because I didn't want to end my time with the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Another reason why this game is difficult to put down is the incredible story that unfolds over the 15 or so hours it takes to complete it. Already established as Spider-Man and working alongside the physically deteriorating Dr. Octavius, Peter Parker attempts to juggle his private and professional life in hopes of creating a better world for both Manhattan and his mentor. When Mayor Norman Osborn shuts down funding for Octavius' project to help cure his rapidly increasing immobility, the infamous Doctor rises to seek revenge on those who stand in his way, most notably someone whose name rhymes with Spider-Pan. What I love most about the story is the fact that it respects the source material, including the characters' general looks and traits, yet isn't afraid to take liberties. Mary Jane is the biggest example of this, as the wildly intelligent character is still the love interest for Peter Parker, but is less confident and more internally conflicted. That isn't to say she isn't a strong-willed figure, because she most definitely is, but there's an added level of vulnerability to her that isn't typically shown. Although he isn't gifted as much screen time as I'd like, Wilson Fisk is also a standout character in the game. The villain himself exits the story early in grandiose fashion. However, his presence looms as his unfinished construction projects and goons populate the city, reminding you that even when locked away, he is the boss. There's a particular scene involving Fisk that I believe to be the best video game sequence I've ever played. In fact, it's the first demo we saw from the game at E3, where Spider-Man is slowly making his way up a Fisk building, taking down henchmen one by one until Mr. Negative spoils the party. It showcases everything a good scene should: action, emotion, suspense, and even a wink to the audience at the end with the introduction of Miles Morales. Long after the story is complete, you'll find it difficult to swing away from the Big Apple. The amount of post-game content is more than satisfactory, and with the various suits you can unlock, it feels like you get to play as a whole new Spidey every time you change his attire. Like I said earlier, Spider-Man isn't the most original game you'll ever play, but everything that it does to near perfection. With a sequel clearly in the making, the franchise may eventually go down as one of the most solid pieces of work ever made.
Please don't screw this up.
OHL action on Rogers TV.
Family, it's just extremely important. People move around. Connected for Success has just made it so much easier. For the longest time, I was on cloud nine. It connects you to family, it connects you to the outside world, and it makes you feel connected to the community. It was a whole new experience. You realize then how much you missed out. In fact, connect is my favorite word now. I love that word. It keeps me out of trouble.
Anything. Anything at all. He's that strong.
Joe Schuster, will you stop it or you'll miss your train? Now help me find number 5.
Strong, but by day he's a mild-mannered reporter. Glasses, you know, a secret identity.
Honestly, you Canadian kids.
He'd be in this cape.
A what?
A cape. Wearing these blue tights.
A hero in tights, really. Here it is.
Listen, Lois, this guy is faster than anything, I swear.
If you're not fast, you're gonna miss your train.
That's it. A bullet. A bullet. He's faster. No, he's faster than a speeding bullet.
Come on, get on it. No one's gonna read a comic strip about a strong man in tights, Joe. It'll never fly.
Fly, no. But he can leap over tall buildings. Oh, wow, yeah.
See what your cousin Frank says in Toronto.
Oh, wait, Lois. I've got something for you. Here, take it. It's a gift. You never know. It might be worth something someday. Is he great or what? Bye-bye,
Lois. Welcome back to the season finale of Digital Circus. I'm joined by one of the hosts of the Canadian Geekcast, Dennis B. Price.
Yeah, I'm back.
How's it going, Dennis?
I'm back.
You're back. Back in the studio. You got a nice cup that says I was a guest on Copeland Talks, but I don't know if you were ever.
I mean, it's an accomplishment to have now I can put on.
That you were a guest on Copeland Talks?
I can say it.
Well, you have a mug that says you were a guest on Copeland Talks.
Yeah.
I don't think you should lie to everybody saying that you were a guest, though.
I'm not lying, just stretching the truth.
Stretching the truth. Okay. Maybe we'll like cross it out and say Digital Circus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about Spider-Man, of course, the man on my shirt.
Yep.
The man not on your shirt.
No.
What were your initial thoughts when you played the game?
So with Spider-Man games, there's always been this measuring stick for a long time, for me anyway, when it comes to like Spider-Man 2. That for me was always the best Spider-Man game, in my opinion. And with this game, Marvel Spider-Man for PS4, this is the best Spider-Man game. This is probably the best Marvel game I ever played. In some, like, you can make a lot of comparisons to Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Like in a way that what Arkham Asylum did for DC games and licensed games in a way too. So I really do think this is the best Spider-Man game, because like for like I've been playing Spider-Man games since the first movie game, and it's always been under Activision, and Activision has always been putting out Spider-Man games that have always been like hit and miss. There's some I like, there's some I dislike, but it feels like this game was made with a purpose, just not to make money, but just to make a really great Spider-Man game.
Yeah, it was almost like a thank you to everybody, and really a love letter to Spider-Man from Insomniac Games. You know, I'm really interested to hear about the story about why this project even happened. I don't know if they've even talked about that. Have you read any articles?
I've heard some interviews that like Marvel came to Insomniac that they wanted them to make their spin on Spider-Man, and like if you like playing the game, it feels like an Insomniac game, because there's a gadget wheel that reminds me of Ratchet and Clank, and there's like mini games that also reminds me of Ratchet and Clank. So it is a Spider-Man game, but it's more so an Insomniac game. But I would say it's like probably the best Insomniac game I've played in a long while.
Yeah, I mean, but they have a really good track record recently. I mean, Ratchet and Clank, the one that they did a few years back, which was kind of like a remake, but based off of the movie, based off the original game. That was fantastic.
It was.
It was amazing. And then they also did Sunset Overdrive as well.
Yeah, they did. That was their like first like debut into doing open world games, and like they used that experience to apply it into Spider-Man for sure. And like even like I've never played an Insomniac game with combat. Like it's always been guns for me, and it's so weird to see them actually do a combat game that is like really freaking good.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the combat in this game? Do you think it was as maybe fluid as something like Batman?
I mean, because I was playing another game that was like very basic combat, and like.
Can I guess what it is?
You can guess.
Was it Yakuza?
It was Yakuza.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
I wasn't gonna mention it.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get it out in the open.
And like, it was kind of a struggle, like getting into the combat, but after a while, like you know, like you counter, do the webs, and like it's really fluid. It's. Like in some ways, I think it's better than Arkham Asylum's combat, because like Batman is a very ground-based character, and like with Spider-Man, you go all over the place. You can, you know, like even with Batman, like he like jumps all over the place, and Spider-Man feels very realistic combat-wise when you're fighting on the ground. But then when you uppercut your enemies, it just gets very comic booky, and I love that.
Yeah. I don't know if I liked it as much as Batman, to be honest. And I don't know if that was just because I think initially I really did want this game to be a bit more grounded.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I was playing it, it felt a little too arcadey, a little too cartoony.
Yeah.
I quickly got over that, and I do think the combat is good. I don't think it's as good as it could have been, though.
Yeah, there's definitely aspects of Arkham Asylum that I think are better. To be honest, like Spider-Man's great, but its side activities are kind of an afterthought.
Sure.
They create a fantastic story, beat for beat. It's like. This game doesn't really, it reminds me of Spider-Man 2 the game, but it also reminds me of the story from the movie as well, of a certain character that he has a mentorship, if you could say. And It's the story is just so good. I love it, man.
Yeah. You know, what did you think of the character interpretations? Because I kind of point this out in my review. I think it's really cool how they respected the source material, but at the same time did step out of the box and try to do something a little different with some of the characters.
Yeah, they definitely poke fun about like the characters designs for the villains like early in the comics. Yeah. And like because there's like a university party like later in the game, and you see all these students dressing up like there was the rhino, the vulture, like so cartoony. Yeah. And then like when you see the actual characters modernized, it's like, wow, that is really impressive. Yeah. Because like Shocker, you know, he has like this star on his costume in the original comics, but in the game, he has like this scar that you can see like a star shape. Yeah. But his like costume is like so like modernized, so techy, but it kind of stays true to what he was in the comics as well. Yeah.
Now a little bit of a spoiler alert right here, but they have kind of already shown this footage. The whole Sinister Six part I think is really awesome. Yep. Because I didn't think they were going to go there, and then, you know, throughout the game I was like, wow, it would be really great, but I don't think they're going to do that. And then when that actually comes to fruition on that rooftop, and you're like, no, this game is really good. Like that's when it like really solidifies it. Obviously that's closer to the end, but still, that moment is just it's jaw dropping.
Yeah, it is, because like I think I remember hearing an interview from the creative director, and he I think he was saying like they were going to show who the sixth member was. But like he got advice just to cut it, and it kind of works, because I think if you're going into this game, you kind of had an idea who that was, but it kind of caught me off guard because I was kind of hoping it wasn't. But
you thought you were expecting a swerve or something?
I was hoping for something, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Green Goblin, of course. And like this world that Spider-Man's in, he's done it 8 years, but he hasn't confronts his biggest villains. There's no Venom. Yep. There's no Green Goblin. When you enter the game, there's no Doc Ock. So it's kind of interesting. I like, even with the game, they definitely set up a sequel.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, it goes without saying, you'd be excited for a second one.
Oh yeah. I'm down, man. Like when I first like saw the first demo at E3 2016, I was like, the quick action events, I was like, don't feel it. And then 2017 was like, you got me. You got me. I'm in. They reeled me in.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, actually, it's kind of the opposite. When I saw the first demo, I was like, wow, that's great. That's awesome. And then when I saw the second one, I wasn't as excited.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I was a little wary going into this game, because I was like, is it going to be what I want? Is it going to be a product of, you know, it's going to be destroyed by the hype that I had? But obviously it wasn't. And it's been a huge success, and that sequel is coming. Yeah. It set it up in story-wise, and I think it sold just fine.
It did. Like, it may not be like a game of the year, but it's definitely like my favorite comic book movie in recent years. And because like there's like a DLC coming, so like they're gonna get me more into that, and I'm just excited what's come next for Insomniac, Marvel games in general. I'm in.
Awesome. Well, on that note, will you come back when the new game comes out, like years from now?
Oh, I hope so.
Hopefully.
If you'll have me.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us, Dennis.
Thanks.
On behalf of myself and producer Aaron Miller, thank you for watching Digital Circus Season 1. Remember, game on. Bye!
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
This is Rogers TV, Durham Region.
Securing your recycling in a few steps is simple, like bundling your cardboard